Query and Company.
I'm a moron. I'd forgotten how liberating it is to walk around in Speedos.
I think I just need to be stretched. I will tell you this. I'm very tight. And you can't see that. I could do this on the camera probably for folks.
I look in the mirror, brush my teeth, and kind of get turned on. But it took a while to get it up.
It's like a rock.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that. Are you not impressed?
I wonder to myself, I wonder how big it is.
That's 52 years of muscle right there.
On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Heard it from a friend who... Heard it from a friend who...
Well, isn't that quite the montage, Eddie Garrison, that you put together there, right? A year and a half or so of doing this radio program, and that right there encompasses the 40 seconds of actual radio airplay that is worth redistribution, correct?
There were some that I have to save for a later date, Jake. I can't use them all right now.
Okay. Well, it is, in fact, my birthday. Thank you.
Happy birthday, sir.
Thanks. Here's what's funny. I was thinking about this on the drive-in today because of, birthdays are an odd thing. Because deep down, and let's be real, for most people, I think I speak for most people with this, you reach an age and a point where, you're like, yeah, it's kind of just another day. But truthfully, it's not. It is a special day because you hear from people that you haven't heard from in a while, which is always appreciated. I don't mean that in a bad way. And it is a reminder of, people say nice things to you or say things to you they only say once a year or whatever else. And I appreciate all of it. I had very nice comments from people that were very much appreciated, some of which I was kind of almost unaware that people thought that particular way, in a good way. So it is greatly appreciated. And you do still look at the date and you're like, oh man, like it's a cool day. It's September 3rd. One of the things that for me is a real blessing, aside from the fact that I know and I'm aware of the fact that I am the luckiest person on the planet because I have just been afforded a lot of things by no credit to myself. Strictly the way things have aligned for me of a lot of fortune and luck. And one of those is the fact that it is still entrusted that I'm allowed to talk on the radio each day about sports and about things that are of importance to me and to the people of this city. And there are people that seemingly either have a broken radio and haven't changed the station or are willing to participate in that for 3 hours a day. And I am very grateful for that. And that is the birthday gift that is the most important to me, is just the connection with the people of this town. Now, what is funny is, as I was driving in today, I thought about two things. Number one, there is a distinct advantage of having your birthday be September 3rd. Not just that it is the 61st anniversary of the Beatles playing at the State Fairgrounds, which is cool. Not just that I always thought it was cool that 9 times 3 is 27, and if you invert 27, you get 72, which was the year I was born, and that 9 is divisible by 3. I always thought that was cool, or the square root of 9 is 3. That was always fun to me. Weird numbers. But it is always, more often than not, in my 53 years now on planet Earth, almost always my birthday is on a day like this. I mean, it goes without saying, obviously, you get consistency of weather pattern in the same day each particular year, but it is always a gorgeous day like this. And I was thinking about I don't know that I truly grasped that each and every year my birthday is usually the week leading up to the kickoff of the NFL season. I mean, it's right there in the beginning because it's the first week in September. And I was thinking about different years and how it relates to the Colts, because the Colts are getting ready to kick off the season. It is not their 53rd in Indianapolis, but they have been here a while. This would be, year 42 or 43 as the Indianapolis Colts. And there have been probably more downs than ups, more lows than highs, but the highs have been at the ultimate level. But here is the good news for you Colts fans. A birthday is a weird thing because it does cause you to look back on different milestones or different points and periods, benchmarks of your life. And I was thinking yesterday, I was telling somebody yesterday, as a matter of fact, about when I was a senior in high school, I went to go visit the University of Alabama. It was one of the 3 schools to which I applied. I applied to Alabama, Ball State, and Kansas, and I ultimately ended up attending Kansas. But I was very close to attending Alabama. And so my parents took me down in my senior year of high school on Labor Day weekend to go visit Tuscaloosa. And I have a picture of my dad in a hotel room in Tuscaloosa, and he's got like 4 $1 bills on his chest, not because he was a stripper, but he was making the joke of that he was counting his money to be able to afford to send me to college. And as I was looking at that, thinking about that photo, that's when it dawned on me that that picture was taken because my mom put a birthday candle inside of a Hostess snowball cake in the like Holiday Inn of Tuscaloosa to celebrate my birthday. And that was my 18th birthday, my senior year of high school. So I was thinking about the fact that that I turned 18 in the fall of 1990. And you know, it's surreal to think that in that image that I have, that my dad, you know, who fortunately is still with us, but I think people know is, you know, had his own health complications of late that are ongoing. But my dad was, you know, 50 in that photo and whatever else. So you just start thinking about these benchmarks. And that's when it dawned on me the following with the Colts. And this is good news for you Colts fans. I have wonderful news for you Colts fans as it relates to today. If you look at benchmark birthdays, Eddie Garrison, I will ask you, okay? When one is like, let's say in middle school, like an adolescence, and your birthdays, you kind of get past the age of we're going to Chuck E. Cheese for my, really look at milestone birthdays, okay? Milestone birthdays. What would you say are the milestone birthdays, Eddie? What is the first milestone birthday that one has where it's a little bit different than the average year, besides one, obviously?
18.
Okay, what about right before that? More so for a girl than a boy, but there is one other year right before that.
Would you say 15?
They did a whole like TV series about it, about like girls
16?
in the South. Correct, Sweet 16, right? On my 16th birthday, 1988, for that particular season, the Colts were coming off of their first divisional championship as the Indianapolis Colts. There was a lot of hope, a lot of expectation. And they went in. That was the Ron Meyer year where all of a sudden they decided to tinker with and go with running the wishbone and try to utilize Eric Dickerson. They went 9-7, and it was kind of a dip year. Then 18th birthday. That 18th birthday we just discussed. That 18th birthday, that was 1990. The Colts had just drafted Jeff George. They had a franchise quarterback. They go in, and they had traded away their best receiver and their best lineman, and they had a dip year at 7-9. And then right then, because I was down there looking at colleges, and then I went away to my freshman year of college in a year where they started out, I believe, 0-14 or 0-15. They went 1-15, and that led them to end up having the first 2 picks in the NFL draft. Steve Emtman and Quentin Correa is who they took. That was the year that symbolized both my 16th and then 18th birthday. My 25th birthday. When I turned 25, that year, the Colts were starting a season, and guess what? In that season, the Colts, the bottom fell out, and that enabled them to end up the next spring to have the number 1 pick in the draft to take Peyton Manning. That was that's how they celebrated my 25th birthday. My 40th birthday, when I turned 40, another landmark birthday. Would you agree, Eddie? After 25, 40 is probably the next big one.
Yeah.
So my 40th birthday, here we go. The season's underway. Let's see what happens. And guess what? That was the year, my 40th birthday, where they had just gone through, they sat through the doldrums of the suck for luck and the Curtis Painter and everything else. They got a rookie quarterback, and they're starting over from scratch again for my 40th birthday, and the future was unknown, and it was Andrew Luck. And, yeah, they had an unbelievable year, but that's how the year began for my 40th birthday. Then for my 50th birthday, I'm celebrating my 50th birthday. I was doing the morning show here with Mark and Kevin, and it's like, let's see what happens for my 50th birthday. And guess what? That was the year of total disaster. That was the year of Frank Reich is off to a terrible start, and now all of a sudden, let's see what we get out of Sam Ellinger and Jeff Saturday is going to be your interim coach, and it was complete turmoil. So each of my landmark birthdays, something happens, more often than not, bad than good. Something happens within this franchise. What you want is this, my 53rd birthday. Because my 53rd birthday, 53, who cares, right? I mean, basically, you're biding your time. You're treading water until 60 because nobody cares about your 53rd birthday. And for the Colts, this is a season that it feels to me like this is going to be a 53rd birthday year. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. I mean, it still has a little bit of special feeling to it for you when it is your birthday. But it becomes kind of a routine. To you, it's special. Like, yeah, okay, it's my birthday. But you know that to the vast majority, to your friends, your family, and everything else, it's like, yeah, it's his 53rd birthday. I don't need to get him anything. And this season for the Colts, to me, I know a lot of people are forecasting doom and gloom. There seems to be a lot of negativity and pessimism about this upcoming Colts season. But I actually disagree with that. I think this is a year that, and there comes a good and a bad with this. I think it's a year where they are going to see what is there with Daniel Jones. They're going to kick the tires on that, and they're going to kind of temper what they're doing, catered around Daniel Jones and his limitation. And I think that they see Daniel Jones. I keep going back to when Chris Ballard talked about Daniel Jones, and he kept referencing Alex Smith. He reminds me of Alex Smith. What I see in him is like Alex Smith. And Alex Smith was a quarterback that was selected number 1 overall by the San Francisco 49ers. And because of where he was selected, there was all this praise and expectation about him and hope. And then he goes out, and he wasn't a terrible quarterback, but he did not deliver quarterbacks, first overall pick quarterback level payoff. Very few do. Peyton Manning said in the piece from Zach Kiefer that we talked about yesterday in The Athletic, he basically said there are franchises that take players high even if they don't need a quarterback, even if they don't believe in a quarterback, they will reach and take it right there so that they can then go back to fans and say, see, we tried something at the quarterback position. And I think Manning, I don't know this, I think Manning was basically saying that about Anthony Richardson. Look, they knew he wasn't the guy. There was a chance, but deep down they knew the risk involved, and they felt like it was a bigger risk than reward, but they had to do it to say that they addressed it. And Alex Smith in San Francisco, I think, was a guy that they took him number 1 overall because you needed a quarterback, and there he was, and so boom, that's who you go with. And then he goes to Kansas City where Chris Ballard's working, and he is a solid quarterback. Because by the time he gets to Kansas City, they understand his limitation and his ceiling. When you go to a go-kart track and you get in the go-karts and they're like, yeah, there's a governor on all these that it can only go so fast, it doesn't matter. You are literally trying your heart. You're like, no, this one's going to go faster than everybody else. And you are gunning that thing to the point where it keeps sputtering on you because the governor dies it down. But you keep pushing because you're like, no. Like, I just got this go-kart, and I know that they told me that there's a ceiling to it, but I'm going to break through that. I don't believe that. I think it's going to go faster. Then eventually you realize, wait a minute, if I just keep this thing at 98% and it never sputters, I'm going to pass Eddie because he keeps sputtering because he's trying to hit the governor on it. And with quarterbacks, I think oftentimes you are doing it as one of two things. You are either trying to push through and not accept what the ceiling is, or you understand what the ceiling is, and then you begin driving the go-kart to the point of knowing where the ceiling is so that you don't get a sputter. And I think with Daniel Jones, I think they tried it with Anthony Richardson. They tried to break through that ceiling. They tried to crash through. And when Chris Ballard is telling us, I see Alex Smith in this player, what he is saying is, Alex Smith became a very good and efficient quarterback in Kansas City and Washington because we understood the ceiling and didn't try to exceed what the governor wanted from us, and therefore there was less sputter. But when we tried to push through and break through that boundary, everything shut down a little bit. And I think this year what they're going to do, and this is the good news, bad news, yin and yang with it, the Colts are going to go into this and they're going to say, we're handling this season like a 53rd birthday. We're handling it like it's just like another year. It's not the specialty year of a 50th birthday or a 40th birthday or a 21st birthday. It's a 53rd birthday. It's special to us, but to the masses, it's just another year. And if they do that, and by doing that, they say, we are going to put basically that ceiling and that understanding on Daniel Jones. I'm not saying that they're going out there playing vanilla football. I'm saying Chris Ballard is giving us the precursor. He is giving us the forecast. He is telling us, look, we are going to play within the limitation of what we know we have. But I think this roster is good enough with that limitation to be competitive. And so I don't think it's going to be doom and gloom. I think the doom and gloom comes if you put Anthony Richardson out there and you say, I know this is a 53rd birthday, but I'm going to pretend it's my 50th. We're going to get the band all back together again. And McConnell's going to drive down from Florida or from Chicago, and Jacqueline's going to fly in from Colorado, and Emily Longnecker's going to show up at my party and take pictures that people put on the internet and say it's my wife, and Shannon's going to plan a big surprise, and my cousin Doug's going to make sure that there's all kinds of food and beverage for everybody there. We already did that. And you can't recapture that. And I think with Anthony Richardson, they look at it and they go, this is a 53rd birthday. So let's know the limitation and let's expect it going in, and that's what you're going to have. Eddie, I truly believe that what they're going to do, I totally agree with what I believe Stephen Holder said yesterday. I think Chris Ballard is telling us, look, we know who we are. We know we're a 53-year-old guy, and it's not as exciting as a 50-year-old one. But we're going to go out, and we're going to utilize Jonathan Taylor and Tyler Warren and Michael Pittman Jr., and we're not going to try to be the greatest show on turf. And we're not going to try to be the Peyton Colts with fast pace and Marvin behind a defense and Reggie Wayne across the middle and Dallas Clark coming across this way and flare out to hand off to Edgerrin James. We know our limitation. And I think it's going to be a more simplified offense, but because of that, it may well be a more effective offense. And then I think they have, this is all barring massive injury, of course, I think they have enough defensive depth, and in particular on the line, to keep them in games. I'm more bullish on them than most. I don't think they're going to be sexy. I don't think they're going to be overly exciting, but I think they're going to be efficient. And I think they're going to go 10-7 and hang around and be right there in that wild card spot. The problem with that, Eddie, is then you're right back to square one. And if you go back to, you either say, okay, we're going to stick long-term with Daniel Jones, which means we're going to play knowing our limitation, or we're going to hand the keys back over to Anthony Richardson, which means we're going to try to jumpstart that 50th birthday again and try to take that governor off and hope that this time the go-kart is able to fight through it. And I don't know that Anthony Richardson can do that. I just don't. And I think that in terms of here, that time has come and gone.
And one of his final pieces with the star, Nate Atkins, kind of laid that out. It feels like there's been a shift in how the Colts are asking what they want their quarterback to do. Before it was what you mentioned, the quarterback elevating the players around him, but now Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard, the coaching staff, the organization feels like the players around the quarterback can elevate the quarterback. And all you're asking Daniel Jones in this case to do is not screw it up. Kind of like what Brock Purdy was doing in his rookie and sophomore years with the San Francisco 49ers, what Dak Prescott was doing in his early years with the Dallas Cowboys. You just hand the ball off to Zeke at that time, and you just try to get it to your playmakers on the outside and let them do what they do best, and with the ball in their hands. Like that's what the avenue is. Like, the one concern I do have about the defense, Jake, they were very poor against the run last year. Are they going to be better against the run this year or not? Because they're going to primarily play two linebackers with Lou Anarumo. That means you're going to rely on your secondary for being able to make tackles in the open field.
I think part of the reason they were poor against the run as well that you have to consider, and I'd have to go back and look at, I'm speaking without having the data in front of me, but I do think that, a year ago their offense more often than not was sputtering, and so teams were playing with the lead against them, and so as a result of that, you had late third and fourth quarter teams salting clock away by burning the clock by running the ball, and eventually that wears down your defense, where then that, statistically speaking, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I do think that their line, and Grover Stewart is a big part of clogging that up in the middle, right, and being active towards trying to clog the middle lanes for you in your running game. I just think, Eddie, I think this is going to be a year where the Colts are a 2022 Honda Civic or Honda Accord, maybe a Honda Accord. It's a nice car. There's nothing flashy about it. If you were making a movie right now, if I just told you, like, hey, we're going to make a movie about just a guy, just a middle-class suburban American family with 2 kids. The guy works at an accounting firm. The wife works in an advertising firm. They got 2 kids that go to public school. They live in the suburbs, and their kids play Little League Baseball. And we're just going to make a movie about the average American family. When you picture that house, your little suburban house, your little bi-level house with a little garage right in the parking lot, or in the driveway, I should say, Honda Accord. Really nice car. Nice car. But it drives past your house every day on the neighborhood, and somebody goes, hey, what kind of car does Charlie drive? And you're like, is it a Honda? It might be is that a Chevy Malibu? A Nissan Altima? It's a nice car. Nice little family sedan. It's perfectly sufficient. It perfectly works, but it doesn't jump out as memorable to you. It's not the guy with the Ferrari, and it's not the guy with the Land Rover. And I think that's what this year is going to be. I think they're going to have a perfectly sufficient year. And the problem with that is that comes with that challenge of that vat of suck that you can't get out of because you're drafting 18th and 19th every year. And therefore, you become, I'm trying to think of teams that just like the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're like 500 for a decade, right? Every year. It's very difficult to get out of that. And that's the one challenge that I think that they're going to have. But it's a great conversation. It's a great, I think it's fascinating to observe because I do think that over the course of the season, this is going to be those first 2 games. When you look at the first 2 games of the year for them, Miami and Denver, you've got to get those 2 at home because those are not only are they home games, and you got to take advantage of your home games when you can, but in addition to that, those are 2 teams that realistically you very well could be fighting with for a wild card spot at the end of the year if they don't win their division. And I think, Houston or Jacksonville, and I know people say, Jacksonville, what? If Jacksonville's able to keep Trevor Lawrence upright and get him in rhythm, I think Jacksonville can be a decent team as well, probably along where the Colts are. Houston, if they're healthy. All of this is all topic of conversation with the NFL this time of year is based upon if they are healthy. But I think it's very safe to say that the Colts, if they're going to have a chance at the postseason or be interesting in November and December, then they need to get certainly one, if not both of these games to begin, because these are teams that they're going to be sitting there in that lane waiting to turn into the left lane with the blinkers on, waiting to see who's going to be able to merge over into that lane that would extend their year. Speaking of lane changes, there is a big one that happened. We told you about it yesterday. If you listen to this show, you were the smartest person at your water cooler today because I told you yesterday of another domino, and yet, in fact, it is now confirmed. I'll let you know about that, and we will find out why Eddie Garrison is chugging the caffeine, including that in which I brought him earlier today. It was a late night. We will review, and I'll explain next. So Saturday, you tell me if you find this odd, Eddie. I might have mentioned this once or 20 times. But since I'm going to, after the IndyCar season and, now that the season's over with, and I look forward to being home for, 6 months basically. But, it's been a hectic last 6 to 8 weeks. And so I'm literally going, I leave Friday night and I come back Sunday. I'm gone for like 40 hours, but I am going to go to that concert, Oasis, as I'd mentioned, at the Rose Bowl on Saturday. And because it is an evening show, I'm going to have a little bit of time, and my body will be on Eastern time still, so when I land, I'll get up Saturday morning in California, like at the crack of dawn, basically. And I think I might have told you once or 20 times what I'm doing, but I'm going out to the Spahn Ranch where the Manson family lived.
Oh, yeah.
And they have the Manson Family Cave, which is a cave where there's a photo of all of the Manson girls in 1969 from Life magazine, and they have written in the rock Manson Cave, and that cave is still there. And most of Spahn Ranch is now gone, but the cave with GPS coordinates or whatever else, you can get to it. Now, it does say high risk of poison oak. So I've got to take pants. I got to wear pants. Now, I don't know that they wore a lot of pants with the Manson family back then, but I'm going to wear pants. But is that weird that I'm going to that before the concert?
Didn't you have written communication or something? What was that letter that you have?
Yeah, I wrote Charles Manson a letter and he wrote me back.
Yeah.
But I most people would find that probably bizarre, but I find it simply historically fascinating. Colton Herta is the new announced test driver for Formula One for Andretti Global and the Cadillac team. Basically the Cadillac Formula One team. And this is, as we talked about yesterday, domino number 2. And I would fully anticipate that it will not be long before Will Power is announced as the driver of the number 26 Gamebridge Honda for Andretti Global. Now, the other driver that could factor into that is Indy Next champion Dennis Hauger. But I believe that Dennis Hauger is probably the front runner to end up driving for Dale Coyne Racing, because yesterday also we mentioned on this show that Rinus VeeKay, who was driving for Dale Coyne Racing, that his contract was up and that he likely would end up in David Malukas' old car because David Malukas is going to go replace Will Power. And VeeKay is somebody that I can tell you Team Penske has been very fond of. And even though he has not had a lot of wins in his career, they are very keen on his talent, his age, his personality, everything about Rinus VeeKay. I think that Team Penske wants to closely monitor, and they have a technical alliance with Foyt Racing. So I think VeeKay has an outstanding opportunity to end up, if Penske is able to somewhat fund part of it, because Foyt Racing doesn't have the kind of money to pay the salary that VeeKay is looking for. But if VeeKay ends up in that number 4 car of David Malukas, which I anticipate, then that would indicate that there is probably some Penske backing there or Penske interest in it. And I think that Dale Coyne's team is likely going to be Dennis Hauger along with Romain Grosjean, who's going to return to the series and is bringing with him some money, I believe. And there's good backing for Dale Coyne now. That's a decent team. That's a decent ride for sure. But that's where things stand with that. But Colton Herta is the next domino here. Will Power, depending on what happens, may be joining us tomorrow, and we can get more indication from him on what's going on. But let's get back into why Eddie today. Eddie, you are drinking caffeinated beverages today, correct?
No, I have a honey citrus mint tea over here.
Well, tea is caffeinated.
I know. I was just letting people know it wasn't the chai tea today.
Well, but you are, what I'm getting at, and thanks for playing along, is that you need caffeine because you were up late last night, correct?
Yes. Late night last night with the fever, yeah.
Fever last night. Eddie was on the postgame show and the pregame show for that matter, as the Fever last night were on the short end against Phoenix. My question for you, Eddie Garrison, we will rehash what you talked about in the postgame show on this radio station, as you do for each and every broadcast of the Fever. The next chance that you will do so will be against the Sky. That is going to be Friday night, 7:15 pregame. But this impacts Indiana now in terms of their postseason and their push to the postseason in what way?
All right, so after that loss last night, they were 7th going into yesterday. Today, they are 8th in the WNBA standings. They have a half a game deficit on the Seattle Storm, who have played one more game than the Fever, so they have 2 left. Indiana has 3 left. Seattle does not play tonight. Their next game, and Indiana has the head-to-head tiebreaker in the event that these two teams finish with the same record. Seattle next plays on Friday against the New York Liberty, who are struggling right now without Sabrina Ionescu, and they just locked up a playoff spot yesterday. So you now have 5 teams that have clinched a playoff berth. There are 4 teams vying for the last 3: Golden State, Seattle, Indiana, and Los Angeles. The Valkyries are in 6th. They are a game and a half up on the Fever, a game up on Seattle. Los Angeles is on the outside looking in. They are a game behind the Indiana Fever. If those two teams were going to end up in a tie, which seems very unlikely, then Indiana would be out of the playoffs. Los Angeles would be in. And I say unlikely because the upcoming schedule for Los Angeles is very daunting. They have 2 games at Atlanta. They have the Las Vegas Aces. They have the Phoenix Mercury. All 4 of those teams right now, or all 4 of those games, those 3 teams, are tied for 2nd in the standings. So there's probably not going to be an avenue in which any of those teams are resting players just because they're trying to get, the 2nd seed or the 3rd seed or what have you. So right now it seems likely that the Fever will make it in. Just depends on what seed they get at this point.
Yeah, and then, of course, you have the discussion of Caitlin Clark, the return, the availability. Eddie, if you could, please, the breaking news sounder. This just in, Andretti Global confirming Will Power will be driving the number 26 Gamebridge Honda for next season for the team in the NTT IndyCar season.
Look at that. You spoke it into existence, Jake.
I did. That's what we do on this show, right? We speak things into existence on this program.
And if you're wondering how the Fever can secure a playoff spot, essentially they have to win 2 of their final 3 games, or Los Angeles has to lose 3 of their next 5.
You know, it is an uncomfortable, when I say uncomfortable, it is an odd question to ask because you always, and you owe it to your roster to do everything you can to push in on what the beginning season goal is. And the beginning season goal for any team is to win a championship. And while it is easy to look at the Fever and say a game over 500, tough games down the stretch, even though Chicago's been a team that they, have fared very well against, devastated by injury. Caitlin Clark, out. McDonald, out. Cunningham, out. Colson, out. Bibby, out. I mean, they have been devastated by injury. And they have had to just plug and play and pick up players. I mean, the Indiana Fever 2025 season is like your fantasy team with kickers. Each week it's like, you know what, my kicker's on a bye. I just got to let me go on the free agent wire. Okay, there's a kicker. Boom. Who's your kicker this week? I can't remember. Some guy I picked up. I think it's Arizona's. Okay, great. Who's your kicker this week? You know what? The guy I had in Arizona, he missed 2 kicks and they cut him. So I just picked up Detroit's, or defenses, the same thing. That's how the Fever have had to handle their backcourt this year. And when I say this, people are going to laugh at me. This might be unpopular opinion. And yes, I'm talking about someone that is a regular guest on this program. And yes, I will readily admit that when it comes to the Fever, perhaps I don't know it in terms of the nuances, the game by game, watching every play like I do the Pacers, partially because of the season in which they play. Many of their games, they are playing them when I'm on the road doing IndyCar races or whatever else. I don't see, I'm not able to sit. Yeah, I could certainly go back and watch after the fact. I get that, and I've done that. But you get what I'm saying. I'm not sitting there watching it with the same eye that I am the Pacers. And I certainly understand and I respect that at the beginning of the season when they did have full strength, there were questions about the style they were playing and whether or not it was the most advantageous style to the way that they should or need to be playing. I get and understand all of those things, and I respect all of those things. Having said all of that, and an expert within the WNBA, I am not. But when you look overall at everything that the franchise has had to contend with and the fact that we are still having this conversation, and they have talented players. Kelsey Mitchell's had a great year and has been everything that you'd want. Aaliyah Boston has had a good year. And both of those players have been able to carry with them, an element of everything that comes with the expectation of the year. But I personally think, and Eddie, I am welcoming you to tell me why I'm wrong, because you see this far more nuanced than I and in far greater detail than I. And it's like one of those, it's like a Monet painting or a Rembrandt painting where you look at it from close up, it looks a lot different than when you step all the way back and look at it. And I'm not seeing the finite parts of a Monet painting because I'm not standing close enough to it. You do. But I think you have to give a huge tip of the cap this year to the coaching job of Stephanie White. I know that people are going to say that that's biased because I, know her or because she comes on this show. I mean, it's not like I hang out with her, but, we clearly have a very good professional working relationship. But that's not why I say that. I say it because they are still in the mix, and while you can critique all you'd like, the way that they offensively approach things with Caitlin Clark when she was there at the beginning of the year and maybe didn't incorporate things, I get it. I hear all of those criticisms, and they may well be warranted and valid. But we'll never know what could have come from whatever they were building with the block Lego pieces at the beginning of the season, because every time they started to build something, a different person came in and pulled out the key block, and they had to restart all over again. And I think when you look at the variety of ways that they've had to play by personnel, I think you have to tip your cap to it. Now, you tell me if that's incorrect.
No, you're absolutely right, Jake. I don't know how many other coaches would be able to keep this Fever team afloat during all the roster turnover and changes they've had to make along the way. And the player that has been impacted the most with all these injuries has simply been Aaliyah Boston, just because of the fact that, when you talk about a dominating big like she can be, oftentimes they are a little bit reliant on the ability of others to space the floor so teams can't key in on her as much as they have been able to, the last 2 weeks defensively. And even though the Fever are trying to find ways, and Stephanie White talked about this last night leading up to the game, is that every night they're trying different ways to get Aaliyah Boston the ball. Some nights they're more successful than others. But there's always going to be an opportunity for Aaliyah to have some sort of success no matter who the point guard is or who the guard is out there. And then to your point, I think the part that Stephanie White has talked about and players have talked about that have had so much success for the Fever this year, even without Caitlin Clark, is the fact that she doesn't try to put people in positions that they aren't comfortable in. She puts them in positions that they are comfortable in and to their best skill set, and to, put the team in their best position to win. And the rotation may not be same from night to night. It's, trying to figure out which five on the floor collectively are the best five together, and then you go from there. And I give Stephanie White a lot of credit, because most coaches would not be able to keep this roster and keep this team over 500 and in the playoff picture.
Yeah, I think it has been impressive for certain. No question about it. By the way, on the program today, Charles Davis going to join us, right? Coming up about 1 o'clock?
Yes, the voice of Madden.
Really? I thought
well, he's one of them. He's one of the analysts on Madden, I should say.
Brandon Gaughan's the voice of Madden, right?
Yes. There's multiple voices now.
Mike Nizilik, did I say the last name correctly?
You did.
Bloomington Herald Telephone Times newspaper, right?
Yes.
The Bloomington Herald Times. He's going to join us, talk a little Indiana football coming up at 1:30 on the program today. And then, are we getting Matt Verderame? Is that right?
Yes.
Little Taco Bell chat?
Yeah.
Matt Verderame, who came for the Combine and fell in love with Indianapolis because of
Taco Bell Cantina?
The Taco Bell Cantina. Is that still there, by the way?
Oh, it is, yes. It's still downtown, Jake.
Is it?
Right around the corner, yeah.
Should we do my birthday dinner there? I think we're doing Chicago's Pizza, right?
Really?
Got to do Chicago's Pizza. Are you kidding me?
It's too bad you can't get there, during the lunch hour.
I know. Well, you still got time, though, if you're out and about right now, to do the lunch buffet at Chicago's Pizza because it runs till 1:30, and you get the pizza, you get the breadsticks, you get the salad bar options, you get the soft drink, you get the dessert pizza, all for $13. $13. Think about that. That place you're looking at right now, that fast food joint you're driving past, $16 out the door, $13 at Chicago's Pizza. A value at twice the price. Absolute value at twice the price. There is a sports bucket list item last night that I again began to ponder, and I would like to know if anybody's done it. I think it would be the best sports weekend. You know, people talk about like a Super Bowl, and I get it, a Final Four. There's nothing like the opening round of the NCAA tournament, the Indianapolis 500. It goes without saying is my favorite weekend of the year. But there is another thing that I thought about, and I thought this would be the ultimate. And I'd like to know if anybody else has done it, because I think I might have to before year 54. I'll tell you what it is next. By the way, Eddie, do you happen to have, again, the breaking news sounder? Hey, Jake, sound the breaking news alarm. Daily female listener here. I think your lady listeners would agree that skip the 25 is a milestone birthday. 30 felt more like a milestone to me. Okay, that's fair. But I do know another female caller named Erin, but this is Erin 2. I believe, Eddie, that takes us to female caller number 26. Am I correct?
I think we're at 26. Either 26 or 27.
I think it's 26. We'll take it, right? Thank you. Thank you, Aaron, and thank you for female listener number 26. So last night I am scanning the channels, okay? Surfing, if you will.
Radio or TV?
Television.
Okay.
This was not – the Fever game was not yet on.
I was about to say, what time was this?
Early 8 o'clock hour.
So, wait, did you find the rerun of Jeopardy or did you find the first run of Jeopardy?
I wowed everyone with the rerun. No, you know what? I'll tell you the two things that I watched, and I thought of a sports bucket list item that I thought this would be a fabulous sports weekend. But before that, as I was sifting through, I'm fascinated by the show America's Got Talent. I know it's been around for like 25 seasons or whatever. Partially because once you get to a certain point, there's not a single contestant on it that's from America. I'm not trying to get into some political thing. I don't care. They're all interesting to me and fun and exciting, but I'm like, isn't America's Got Talent supposed to be like, here's the house painter with the unique talent? And instead it's like, here's a coffee house singer that's been playing in Broadway in Nashville for 12 years, okay? But more so, it is, here's a band from India, here's a magician from, Dubai, and here is a juggling poodle from Australia.
And then you get Richard Goodall from good old Fort Wayne, Indiana.
That's exactly right. No, Terre Haute.
Terre Haute, that's right. Sorry.
But there was a guy last night, and I'm probably the last human being that watches this program, I realize. But most magicians, you can kind of figure out, you're like, okay, this is how that's done. There is a magician on America's Got Talent. I think it's called Mind Bender or Mind Craft or something like that. And it's a guy that kind of looks like I don't know, he's dressed up like Boba Fett, but he uses image, like he gets into your cell phone and sends messages to your cell phone without typing on it. It's hard to explain, but if anybody saw it last night, it truly was mind-blowingly remarkable. And so once I saw this act, I thought, well, nobody can top this. Now they're going to bring out some jackass that's going to try to, do a bow and arrow through a
I mean, if you're the magician, how do you follow that up?
Totally. So I changed the channel. And that's when I realized this.
Naked and Afraid was on?
I like that show too. There is no, I shouldn't say there's no sporting event that is better than, because there are. But I have said before, and I will say again, I think one of the most underrated, underappreciated sporting events or sports to watch.
Tennis.
Yes. High-level tennis is captivating. The hand-eye coordination that is required even at the most – I grew up with Eric Barrett, who was a state champion tennis player and had a fabulous career at Indiana. I believe he won the Big Ten in singles. And I played every sport with Eric growing up. And every sport that we played, Eric Barrett was better than the rest of us because he had a natural ability. His dad, Denny Barrett, was a great player in basketball. But Eric had a natural hand-eye coordination about him that you can't teach it. And that transferred for him on the tennis court into being an unbelievable tennis player. And one time, he had a tennis court in his backyard. One time I had him serve me just a regular serve. And Eddie, I don't know if you've ever tried to hit like a high-level serve, but it's unbelievable. I mean, it's harder than hitting a fastball in baseball, in my opinion. But the hand-eye coordination and the movement and the precision with which high-level players play is remarkable. And I love watching the U.S. Open. I do. I like Wimbledon. I like the French Open. I'm not a huge tennis fan, but I'm an appreciator of tennis. And so I watched a lot of Fritz and Djokovic last night, and I was thinking to myself, there would be few things this time of year when the weather is perfect.
So did you watch Djokovic and, was it Sinner last night?
It was Fritz.
Fritz, that's right.
Yeah. Yes. And so when I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, it would be awesome to take 2 or 3 days. It would not be inexpensive, I realize, but to stay in New York City, which is, in my opinion, the greatest city in the world. There's always stuff going on in New York. But to stay in New York City, to take the train over to Flushing, right there in Queens, to take in, say, a day or two or a center court or two, not inexpensive, I realize. You don't have to sit down low. You can sit up high. To watch the U.S. Open, and then if you can, mix in a Yankees or a Mets game. I think that would be an unbelievable sports weekend and just a weekend of energy and vibe that would be really hard to top. I just think it is high-level tennis. I'm telling you, I'm not a tennis aficionado. I'm not an expert on it. I don't watch it year-round. I don't watch the Smithsonian Invitational in Roanoke, Virginia. I don't watch that. But it is an unbelievable high-level stuff to watch, and I love the drama of it. I think it'd be an awesome weekend. Charles Davis, by the way, NFL. We can ask him our question. The 3 teams, see if he matches Eddie or myself that we talked about yesterday with Stephen Holder, but more specifically on the Colts. And Shane Steichen has spoken about Daniel Jones, and I'm going to play for you some of that audio as well upcoming here. It is Query & Company. You're listening to it on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. for the Colts coming up this Sunday against the Miami Dolphins. Lucas Oil Stadium on the microphone for that with the NFL on CBS. He is a friend of this radio station. Always good with his time. Charles Davis will be on the call for that game. Charles, I appreciate the time. Let's get right to this. As you have started to kind of break down, and at the beginning of the year, we kind of don't know what teams are and who's going to be who. But when you look at Indianapolis, what jumps out at you as perhaps an area that surprised you of either more efficient or more deficient than what you expected before you really broke into who they are?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think surprise isn't the proper word, but I think maybe a realization again, once more being reintroduced to the fact that this offense has plenty of talent on that side of the ball. And I think they've done a nice job over the years. I know Chris Ballard catches a lot of grief for different things. You know how it is as a GM, right? But if Ryan Kelly's going to be gone and Will Fries, who came on and played so well before getting hurt, is also gone, who do you have? Well, they've drafted in recent years. Tanner Bortolini ended up winning the center job before Danny Pinter even got hurt. And, Matt, is it Gonzalez? I want to make sure I get this correct.
Correct.
Is that how it?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to remember from my draft days, all right? But Matt Gonzalez, he will have to prove that he can play guard because he's been a tackle, but they like his potential. And Braden Smith is kind of my North Star for this. Many thought he wasn't a tackle. Everybody thought he was a guard. He's done quite well at tackle. So I think the Colts, I think they're doing a really nice job evaluating these positions. So I really like this offensive line's potential going in. And then all the people on the perimeter, drafting Tyler Warren, having Jonathan Taylor. So, of course, it comes back to everything that we always talk about, right? I mean, there's just no getting around it, is there? What kind of quarterback play will they get with Daniel Jones becoming their new starter?
Yeah, and that's here's what I mentioned earlier, Charles, and I want you to tell me if this is the dumbest sports talk radio armchair quarterback thing you've ever heard, okay? And that is that, Daniel Jones is perhaps a quarterback that has a more defined ceiling and a very clear understanding of that ceiling. But I think if they know that going in, they can cater an offense around what he can do and actually be reliant on the playmakers to make plays as opposed to the quarterback. And they get in danger a little bit a year ago with Anthony Richardson of waiting for the light to click, and there was just too much inconsistency. So you may not have the highs with a Daniel Jones, but you have a better understanding of keeping it within what the governor wants and just letting it naturally flow. And that's what they're going to be reliant upon for him.
Well, but before I get into my answer, let me just start with this. We've talked number of times over the years. Dumb has never been a part of your game. Okay.
Well, thanks.
And it's not starting now. I think what you laid out is a very good blueprint's the wrong word. Roadmap's the wrong word now until proven differently. But let's call it a supposition. All right. This is how it could be. Here's where I think the Colts fans are sitting on the edge of their seats and thinking to themselves, could it be more? Because I think with Daniel Jones, we keep coming back to, hey, he doesn't push it downfield. Look at his yards per completion or yards per attempt, and it's really low. And, even though Anthony Richardson didn't complete a lot of passes when he threw it downfield and blah, 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 blah. I think you have to go back and look at who he was throwing to with the Giants. Malik Neighbors wasn't there. Okay. All right. It wasn't that type of a wide receiver unit. And he made the most of what he could. He has more than enough arm. So if all of a sudden you look up and Alex Pierce has pierced the defense, see what I did there?
Well done.
And if you look up and Tyler Warren is stretching the seams, right? And Josh Downs is shaking someone and maybe done a little wheel and gone upfield. There's plenty of arm there. We might see a little more of Daniel Jones than maybe people expected to see. And I do believe if that happens, Jonathan Taylor will be in heaven because now the field opens up even more for him, and that's what he needs.
Is it possible, Charles, that the Colts finally said to themselves, because of, and I don't mean this as a knock on Anthony Richardson, but let's just say because of the young inconsistency of Richardson, Is it possible that they needed to do a redirect at the quarterback position to simply be able to itemize properly who they have offensively? Because if Michael Pittman Jr. is going to be a long-term receiver in the league, if Pierce is actually a consistent deep ball threat, if A.D. Mitchell can get uncorked, you've got to be able to consistently get them the football, and this allows them to actually find out what they have everywhere else as opposed to the quarterback position. Is there a possibility that's the thought process?
Sure, there's a possibility in that. I think I'm leaning more towards, I don't care what you're doing yards per completion wise. If you're below 50% in this league throwing the football in 2025, that's just not sustainable. It's just not. Tim Tebow was the one mold breaker for a season where he ran Denver into a playoff spot and hit one of the better throws you're ever going to see in the playoffs when he hit Demaryius Thomas across the middle against Pittsburgh.
Yep.
But all in all, what's his completion percentage? It's a hard slog, right? It's hard to go, I'll make it a general comment here because I don't have the stats in front of me. But I'm pretty sure Tim was around 50% as a thrower, okay? It's hard to win every week in this league if your quarterback is 5 of 17 going into the fourth quarter. Now, Tim Tebow had a magic to him, we know, that I think he'll possess until it's all over for him. There's a magic to him as a person. There's a magic to him as a player. But you can't go into the fourth quarter expecting, hey, this is going to snap together and he's going to put together this drive. And he did it often. So you start to think that that's just how it was. There isn't a coach alive, a head coach alive, and there's not enough Pepto-Bismol, Tums, and whatever else you want to use, Maalox, whatever, that they can live 17 games on that high wire act because you're putting too much pressure on your defense. Unless you have the 2000 Ravens or the 85 Bears or pick your defenses out there consistently, that's just not going to work for you over time. And that's what people knew. Because you remember Denver, hey, we made the playoffs. That's great. We got to get a quarterback. We got Peyton Manning. It's just kind of how that has to work. For Anthony Richardson, all of that is there. I firmly believe that they thought by now in year 3 he would have played enough that they could have gotten past a lot of things. But because of his injuries, that plan got shot. Does that make sense, Jay?
Yeah.
Because he was supposed to play himself into understanding how to play the position because he only had 13 starts at Florida. But when you're missing most of your seasons, you see where I'm going with this. They did not get that experience they expected to get in terms of on-the-job training. And so now he has to retool. I'm like Chris Ballard. I'm not counting him out. He's too young. He's too talented. We've seen too many guys bounce back. You're crazy if you don't. We're not even talking about guys who came back as veterans. Doug Williams, Jim Plunkett. Those guys won Super Bowls. So let's not count him out at all. But for right now, I can understand why the Colts made the move they did.
47.9% completion percentage for Tim Tebow in his career. I think Richardson's like right at 51, if I'm not mistaken. So very similar, yes, and similar prototype of body, athleticism, etc. Charles Davis is our guest. He'll be on the call. Colts and Dolphins coming up week 1. Charles, I want to get to this real quick before because I know you're busy. I always ask this at the beginning of the year. It's one of my fun subjects. I'm going to give you 3 categories, and when I do, I just need you to tell me what team most comes to mind, okay?
Okay.
Category 1, the team that we don't talk a lot about. There hasn't been a lot of hype and expectation. They don't jump off the page at you. But around Halloween into November, all of a sudden we're going to go, are they good? They're like 6-3 now. We haven't talked about them at all, and I think they might be good. This is last year's version of, say, the Washington Commanders. That team this year could be who?
Seattle.
Okay. Number 2 is the opposite of that. This is the team that we've talked a lot about. There's some praise. There's a little bit of hype about them, some buzz. And all of a sudden we may say, is it not going to take off for them? I don't know what's going on, but they're stuck in the mud. That team would be who?
Oh, that's a great one. San Francisco, potentially.
Okay. And then lastly, now this is my favorite one. This is the what in the heck? I just got an alert that Sam Ellinger's the starter for the rest of the year and Jeff Saturday's going to coach.
Whoa.
No. I'm not saying literally. I'm saying if you go back to that season when that happened with the Colts, every year. So this is that honorary year. In other words, the team that all of a sudden just every door they try to turn the knob on is locked and the year just goes haywire and there's turmoil and who in the world expected this? But, man, this is just nonstop drama. That team is going to be and you can't say the Dallas Cowboys because this is them every year.
That's just natural, right?
Correct.
Nonstop drama. Everything's just kind of going haywire. The whole thing's kind of going out of whack. Cleveland's too easy. You can't do that. Sorry. How about the LA Chargers?
Okay. I can kind of see that because
I don't really truly believe it, but it's got that type of a, if anything's going to go haywire and crazy, because what they did last year was really impressive with a lot of one-year contracts, right? A lot of veteran guys, but they still haven't totally solved cap yet, and they've made a lot of moves that look pretty good. But I'm telling you, Rashawn Slater's injury, now you're bouncing all. Now you get Trey Pipkin. You see where I'm going with this. And that division is a beast because the Raiders are now going to be a legitimate squad. Okay,
Boom.
Pete Carroll, there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Okay, the Raiders was my pick for what you said about Seattle. Like I feel like the Raiders are one of those that I
They're
like.
Legit.
I like Geno Smith. Is he?
Yep.
Is he Doug Williams? Perhaps not. Is he Joe Montana? Perhaps not. But I think that he can be a
he's
perfectly
good.
sufficient. I like him. Right.
I'm with you, and the reason you and I think have landed on it is Pete Carroll is proven, understands how to win games. Got a good GM with him in John Spytek. They're locked in like he was with John Schneider, and there's better talent there than people know, and I like the additions of what they did. Listen, drafting Genty, I can hear people, don't draft the back, they'll draft the back. I get it, okay, fine, but guess what? The way they're going to play, draft that back.
It softens some things up elsewhere, right? It gives you like that. It draws things in there. All right. Lastly, Charles, in your opinion, and I know that it's very early here, but if you look at it, and this is always, of course, saying and assuming that health is not a concern, the ceiling for Indianapolis, in your opinion, is what?
11 wins.
Okay.
Yeah, 11 wins. It's a division that everyone looks at and thinks that they can get right. I think it's a tougher year to get right because I think Houston last year was ripe to be had. Remember, they had the rollicking roller coaster of that first year. It was just so much fun, right? And the second year, everybody challenged them, and they were floundering for a while, took an 8 count, and came back and finished the season and won a playoff game. I think that they're now battle-tested. So if you're going to go get them, you got to go truly get them now. Like I think they're in that echelon now of, hey, we're pretty good and we know it, and we know how to handle some bumps.
Well, let me tell you something.
It's still a division that people can jump up and go get people. I really believe that. If Daniel Jones plays well, I think this is a very talented roster in Indianapolis.
Okay, go out and get yourself a hat and gloves because if they win 11 games, we'll put you in the parade in January down Meridian Street. I'm telling you right now.
No one wants to see me Ferris Bueller in, okay? So
there we go, a little twist and shout. Charles, appreciate it, man. I know you're busy. We look forward to the call on Sunday, and I appreciate you squeezing in some time for us.
Thanks for having time for me. Always great to talk with you. You take care of yourself.
I appreciate it. Charles Davis joining us again. Colts-Dolphins Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium. He will be on the call. Totally agree about the Raiders. Seattle's interesting. Seattle's one of those teams that they never totally fall off, right?
See, I thought he was going Los Angeles Rams, not Chargers.
That's also possible. I think the Chargers, though, you've got to give and it's not there yet, but Jim Harbaugh does have this weird factor of all of a sudden, like everything he's just an odd dude, right? I like him, but he's an odd dude. And like when the expiration date hits, it hits.
Well, I went from the think of, look, Stafford has missed a ton of camp in preseason time.
Yes.
With the back
Good
injury.
question mark there, right?
Like if the back injury all of a sudden, becomes worse, does he miss time? Next thing you know, they're running Jimmy Garoppolo out there.
Is that who their backup is?
Yes.
For whatever reason, I was also thinking, who's like the career backup guy? The career backup guys, who is the proverbial lifetime backup quarterback in the NFL? When I say I'm going to, Eddie, I'm going to, and listen, folks can text me their answer here at 239-1070, okay? Right now, or on my cell phone number, either one. We would love to have you chime in with this answer, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to describe to you a quarterback, and I want you to, and wait till I'm done, and then I want you to tell me who you're thinking of.
Okay.
Okay? This is a quarterback that, through the course of his career, in his first 5 or 6 years, he's played for 3 different franchises. He was a spot starter that was given opportunity in week 9 in his rookie year, week 12 in his second year, and both times kind of surprisingly threw for like 300 yards and a touchdown or 2 and kept his team in it. And people were like, okay, not familiar with this guy, but okay. Then a franchise came along and gave him an opportunity as a starter. He went out, put up some good numbers, but his team was 7-9. Then the next year they were 9-7. And then he went back to being journeyman backup. And when he would have to come in for it, he has a 3 to 4 week limit. But he'll throw for massive yards when he comes in there.
Donut tire?
300. He's a donut tire guy. Throws for 300 yards and 4 touches. And before you know it, you're like, this guy's 39 years old. He's been in the league and he's played for 7 different teams and has accumulated good numbers and made good money. But he's never necessarily made the leap to being a starter, and when they've tried to make him such, it hasn't worked out. But, man, is he a good backup. And it wouldn't surprise you if he's still on a roster, but you're not positive. Who am I talking about?
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Okay, that's it. That's exactly who Caleb just said. Somebody said Jim Sorgi. Jim Sorgi never really got on the field, though, only because Peyton Manning didn't give up snaps.
Josh McCown.
Josh McCown's a good one.
Jameis Winston now.
Never Nervous Purvis was Purvis Ellison. What was Jameis Winston? What was his nickname?
Famous Jameis?
Famous Jameis. Yeah, thank you. Nobody said the guy that I'm thinking of yet.
Gardner Minshew.
Gardner Minshew's a good one. Colt McCoy, not bad.
Jacoby Brissett.
Somebody finally said it here. Boom. I'm not saying that this is the definitive correct answer, but the guy that I was thinking of, because you were talking about the Rams, is Case Keenum.
Yeah.
Isn't Case Keenum like the career backup? Good player, but every time they try to put him out there as a starter, you find the ceiling quickly. Somebody says Mark Malone. All I know about Mark Malone is this. I've heard Mark Malone, who is the former Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. Mark Malone will occasionally do commentary on like Westwood One games.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to admit this, but my voice sounds exactly like Mark Malone. When Mark Malone is doing a game, I will hear it, and I'm like, whoa. And typically when Mark Malone is on the radio, I get, whenever he's doing a game, I know it.
Josh Johnson, another good one.
Josh Johnson's a good one.
Teddy Bridgewater, Tyrod Taylor.
Charlie Whitehurst, Clipboard Jesus, that's a good one.
Jesus.
Steve Berline, that's a good one. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a poster child. Teddy Bridgewater's become a big one for this too. Hey, Jake, Mark Malone is a Tom Selleck lookalike. Yeah, see, Mark Malone looks like Tom Selleck and sounds like me. Now, can you imagine a better double dose of sexiness than that?
Oh, gosh.
I mean, that is genetic lottery for this guy. Somebody says to Mark Malone, do you like the fact that your initials are the same as a popular candy? Well, that's fine. Do you like the fact that you were the quarterback for one of the most historic franchises in the NFL, the Pittsburgh Steelers? That's cool. Do you like the fact that you get to do games on the radio and get paid to travel around watching NFL games? That's fun. What about the fact you look like Tom Selleck? Good. Mustache itches sometimes. What about the fact you sound like Jake Quarry? Now we're talking. That's exactly what Mark Malone would say. Let's go, right? Shane Steichen did talk earlier about the quarterbacking situation with Daniel Jones now taking the snaps, and we know that it's going to be this way for the year. And I do think that it is certainly worth looking at, as we just talked about, say, with Charles Davis. And by the way, you can catch Charles along with Andrew Catalon, A.J. Ross this Sunday, as I mentioned, on CBS Colts and Dolphins. But
you should love your voice.
Well, that's Kevin Harlan, right?
I know.
David Letterman also once told me I had a fabulous radio voice. I hate my voice, actually, but Mark Malone probably likes it.
You pivoted too quickly. I was trying to pull it up as you were talking about, your voice and everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I pivot quickly. That's one of the things when I was a low post player that coaches loved is how quickly I could pivot. But Shane Steichen was talking about Daniel Jones, and I think that when you look at it, and I mentioned it earlier, and talking with Charles Davis about it, I don't think in any way, shape, or form that when you look at Daniel Jones that you get overly, it doesn't come with the flash, the glitz and glamour that an Anthony Richardson does. That goes without saying. The ceiling is probably not as high, to use that buzzword. However, you do get, I think, a better understanding to an extent of what you're getting into. Shane Steichen talked earlier and elaborated on going into week one, what it is exactly that he wants to see from Daniel Jones now that this is, of course, his selection at starter.
With him, I'm excited for his opportunity. Stay steady, find completions, keep us on track. You know what I mean? And at that position, that's what it is. It's finding completions, moving the football, not making bad plays worse. And I talk about the operation, feel very confident in his operation at the line of scrimmage, getting us in and out of the right plays. And I know the team feels confident in that as well.
Okay, I think there's something to be deciphered here. He also went on, and I'll go back to that, but he also talked about just the overall opportunity now for Daniel Jones and what this means, because this is a chance for him to show that what happened in New York was maybe more on New York than Daniel Jones. Shane Steichen on the opportunity of proving it for Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely. A new environment, new opportunity for him to go out and prove it. You know what I mean? He's had success in this league. He's had his ups and downs, like I said, but it's a great opportunity for him on Sunday in this season to go prove it.
What's interesting is when you look at what he talked about and what he wants to see from Jones, what he is saying there is things like moving the ball, putting the football in the right place, not turning a bad play into a worse play, operation at the line. These are the things that Shane Steichen has been screaming to us from day one, and it's almost like we didn't want to listen to it. And what I mean by that is he is making it clear, I just simply need somebody to keep their hands on the wheel. I don't want someone that's weaving in and out of traffic. I need somebody that knows when it's time to just simply pull over to the side and let traffic run itself out. I need better decision-making. I don't think that Shane Steichen looks at the Colts offense and looks at the weapons on their offense and looks at Michael Pittman Jr. and looks at Tyler Warren and looks at Josh Downs and looks at A.D. Mitchell and looks at Alec Pierce and looks at Jonathan Taylor and looks at Tyler Goodson and looks at the players that he has there. I don't think Shane Steichen looks at that and says, what we need here is a guy that is able to create. I think he is saying, look, we have all of the pieces there to create for them. I need somebody that is situational and understands the canvas in front of them and knows that they have all the colors they need, all of the paintbrushes they need, and all of the visuals they need. We just need them to put it on the canvas. And I think they saw in Richardson, they are intrigued by still what the possibility is because of his God-given talents. But I think that Shane Steichen is screaming to everybody and doing everything but putting it on that billboard on 465 on the northwest side that's the most seen in Indianapolis, that I think is still paying tribute to Julia Reagan, rest her soul. But I think what he is saying to all of us is, I don't need right now the guy that is going to hit the home run from time to time, because we have enough pieces here that simple base hits are going to get runs across the plate for us. And that's what he's hoping to see out of Daniel Jones. Operational, situational, and understanding of limitation and not trying to break through that barrier. And if Daniel Jones is able to do that and is able to move the football with base hits instead of the occasional home run, then I think they're going to be okay because they have a good defense and they do have good pieces in balance. They don't have anything that blows you away per se, but they have good balance across their roster. And I still believe they have the make. And maybe I am welcoming the city of Indianapolis to tell me I am the biggest moron on the planet. But I truly do think they could go 10-7. I'm going to go with 10-7. And that's we're factoring in health because you never know with injury. That if Jonathan Taylor and DeForest Buckner and Zaire Franklin and Nick Cross all get hurt in week one, okay, fine. I get it then. But I think if barring major injury across the board, they have the pieces to be better than people think. The problem is then you're kind of stuck in that middle where it's hard to get out of that 10-7, 11-6, 9-8, 8-9 range. It's just hard to get out of that. Indiana against Old Dominion, impressive to an extent, but was there area for concern? Our friend from the Bloomington Herald-Times, Mike, joins us next. Win on Saturday over Ball State. And listen, for the Boilers, and I mean this is no disrespect to Ball State, Purdue, anything. I mean, Purdue is, we don't know what Barry Odom has, right? I mean, that's an almost entirely new roster, a lot of new faces there. And what you wanted to see from Purdue, I think, and understandably so, was simply what they are kind of preaching, which is just a more discipline-laden, hard-nosed, smart football. And I think Purdue showed that. Now, for the Boilers, you and Indiana both, it is hard to know what a team is after one game, and especially before you get into like the thick of the schedule. But Indiana in particular, Kurt Signetti has made no bones about the fact that this is the way we're going to do it, the SEC model of scheduling. You start out with Old Dominion, then Kennesaw State and Indiana State, and then boom, reality hits because you get Illinois, you get Iowa, you get Oregon right out of the box. But let's talk about ODU and Indiana and what was good or bad for the Hoosiers, if we can even determine either. Joining us now on the always busy and available for your company to sponsor guest line, he is with the Bloomington Herald Times. I know that. It's not the telephone. Bloomington Herald Times. Our friend from Bloomington, Mike
Nizilik,
joins us on the program. Mike, let's begin right away with that, and that is when you were able to assess this Indiana team, what was a question that you had going in that you felt like you got a better answer on after game number one?
it's an interesting question. I mean, I thought, look, the veterans all kind of acclimated, and there was no sort of, I mean, you talk about giving the first big run, and there was no panic. This is a veteran-laden team, and even though I think they struggled, this wasn't a team that kind of lost itself. Like they were, they responded each time, right? The punt return, they had the red zone struggles, but they still put together long drives. Like nothing snowballed. Yeah, it didn't look great, didn't look perfect, but I think you saw kind of the leadership. You saw sort of all the veteran presence on both sides of the ball that, look, we're going to get this done, even though maybe it doesn't look quite as pretty.
Do you, if there was an area, Mike, that, an open disclaimer, I didn't see the game live, right? I went back and I watched highlights of it and looked at the box score and et cetera. A little bit dangerous, I realized, but I was working a race this weekend. But I saw the vast majority of it, and it's easy to say, well, I mean, yeah, they gave up a big run right at the beginning. This idiot's going to say their run defense. Hey, look, but it seemed like they were susceptible to, at times, chunk yardage plays. Now, is that me nitpicking from afar, or is that an accurate area of concern?
Well, it was two, basically. Obviously, the bookend of the game with the long runs. I think what's concerning about it is that, the lasting image of the last game last year was the long run they gave up. I know that wasn't a quarterback, but Jeremiah Love, obviously, with the touchdown run that sort of changed that complexion of that game. And, you do it right at the start in week one. That's a concern. And then the other part of it is that you're going to face mobile quarterbacks here, 5 or 6 times this season. And so with all those guys on your schedule, when your quarterback run defense shows some significant issues, even though, it was, really relegated to 2 plays, I do think it's a concern. You got to get it cleaned up. You got to get it fixed just because of what you've now shown those teams kind of on your schedule, like, hey, there's an opening here. We got to prove that we can stop those things. You'll get another chance this weekend against Kennesaw State, but I mean, you have a couple of those in the Big Ten as well, and so you got to be, Riley Leonard really hurt them last year. They couldn't, get him down, and then obviously they allowed the big run. But I just think you don't want it to be a symptom of a larger problem, and obviously you can't be happy when you give up 2. Look, it was as many 70+ yards as they gave up all last season, so not great in one game.
What did you think of Fernando Mendoza?
You saw he makes the beautiful throw to Omar Cooper Jr., 50+ yards, effortless, and, Cooper drops it, doesn't help him out. But, I mean, in that moment, you kind of saw, like, oh, yeah, this guy can make all these throws. I think what you also saw was a quarterback that maybe he's getting used to having time in the pocket. How many times did he get to his 4th option last year at Cal when he was sacked 40 times? He was making 1 read, 2 read, quick outs, and doing a lot of those things. here, he's got to really do a better job of reading his progressions, getting the ball to his targets. I think you saw starting to get in the third quarter a little bit. He got people involved because everything in the first half really was to EJ Williams. Five catches, and Surratt didn't have any. And so I think it's a work in progress a little bit. I kind of assumed, look, yes, he has basically a season and a half of experience. But Curtis Rourke came in with like 5 years of practice under his belt and multiple years of starting beyond just one full season. Like, he was a more fully formed product, I think. Mendoza has the higher ceiling with his arm, but I do think these are almost like a preseason here, ramping up until we get to Illinois, and I think it's good experience he gets in this offense, and I think he'll look better here in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But I kind of maybe expected a little bit of what we saw, just because this was a new, completely new system for him, new offensive line. He's got to get used to, you pick up some bad habits when you're running for your life every snap.
Do you more commonly refer to yourself as Michael or Mike?
Mike.
Okay, because I notice your bylines, your professional things are Michael. I wanted to be respectful of which way you prefer to be addressed.
I really don't nitpick, but
okay.
Mike is probably the more common. But yes, everything on my bylines is Michael.
Again, Michael, better known as Mike to his friends and family, which we consider ourselves both. From the Herald Times in Bloomington, talking about Indiana football here on the guest line. Mike, when you look at the Big Ten in general, because I think, it's just so fascinating now with college football, right out of the box, you've got, in Clemson and LSU, that one of a top 5 team is going to lose. That happened to be Clemson. Ohio State, Texas, same thing. Texas on the short end. Notre Dame, Miami. Notre Dame's down 1. But yet with the 12-team playoff now, you already here in September start keeping an eye on it. The Big Ten has kind of power played this of creating the narrative of multiple Big Ten teams and et cetera. How many this year do you think the Big Ten what is the number? I don't mean the teams. What's the number you think the Big Ten could get in?
4. Yeah, that's the number. I believe, yeah.
Okay, so those 4, you're looking at it, and you say, Ohio State, pretty safe. Penn State, pretty safe, barring disasters here, right? I think you'd say Oregon, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Indiana's right in that mix. So going into it, they may be approaching things differently psychologically than a year ago. In what way? Because a year ago, I don't know that anybody was talking Indiana college football. Maybe Kurt Cignetti behind closed doors, but nobody nationally was. How is Indiana handling that sort of a national attention or microscope?
Well, I think they were. They were basically in that eye of the storm at the end of last year when people kind of Michigan on were kind of every week.
Well, I know, but just in terms of the outset of the season, like this particular year, this September looks different than last September. How?
But my point is, I think that prepared them for being they've literally been the topic of discussion since then, right? And so they've kind of had to deal with all of that, and so they had to play under that, and obviously responded, beat Michigan, and then crushed Purdue to even get in the playoffs. So I think you saw a little of that, and it hasn't sort of stopped. And so I don't think they are foreign to it, and also. The JMU kids were 10-0, I believe, the year before.
Yep.
So, the core of this, I think, team has dealt with a little bit of that. And obviously, you brought in some transfers that, Pat Coogan at Notre Dame, guy that knows how to play sort of under that spotlight and expectations. So I do think this team is probably more prepared than they were maybe even last year as they sort of faced that because, it was a lot to put on a team, but now they've sort of had the run up. And I think there's mostly sort of turned it off. I know a lot of the guys talked about kind of deleting social media, kind of ignoring all that conversation and not paying any attention to it. And I think they've used it more as fuel in terms of look, because most of the stuff has been questioning whether Indiana belongs, right? And people saying they don't. I don't think it's been flowers they've been getting for being part of the playoff picture. It's been quite the opposite, people questioning their schedule, people calling them a fluke. And these are a lot of guys that weren't heavily recruited, felt ignored by Power 4 teams, and they've sort of added this to be look, we need to prove them wrong. And so, I don't think that the uneven performance, I don't sort of attribute to that part of it, dealing with expectations. I think that part they'll be fine. I just think this was a new team that, obviously Didn't get everything right in week 1, but it's going to come back and try to get it fixed. But no, to your point, I think it's a team that will be able to sort of handle the spotlight when it comes. I think it's going to be huge, that Illinois-Indiana game on September 20th. I mean, that'll be a real big, get talked up because Illinois obviously is getting kind of some of the, chatter about being the next Indiana. And then in 2 weeks after that, the Oregon game. Those are big moments that I think they'll be able to handle.
Hey, what kind of dude is Kurt Cignetti? I mean, we know what he's like as a coach, but I assume you've been around him a little bit. What kind of dude is he?
I mean, he is what he is, right? I don't think anything that he does is for show, right? You're getting the genuine article when he's at the podium. And this is basically, from what I've been told, how he's been his entire career. I know people have covered him in the past, and when he says he's a film guy, he's not lying. When I've interviewed him, sat down, and he kind of pulled up his computer and showed me what he was doing, and it's like film. It's just he goes through it and sorts all this stuff and spends hours on it. And I mean, that's who he is.
Hey, what'd you think of the Mike Nizilik is our guest from the Bloomington Herald-Times. What did you think of the Bison? It's the debut of the Bison. Your thoughts?
I mean, they did a nice job with the production of it. With the plane, I don't know if you saw the replay of him flying out of the plane.
Oh, it's great. He's riding around on a Harley and the whole deal, right?
Yeah, and so one of the things it ties back to honestly what Kurt Cignetti said about improving the atmosphere and giving people, he chided the fans for leaving at halftime, but the idea of giving people a reason to stay, giving kids a reason to stay, all that ties in. You're trying to, improve the, be with the big boys, and it seems silly that a mascot would be part of that, but it is. It's the atmosphere and making it, giving fans a reason to come and get loud and do things, and that just adds all to it.
Kids can join the Hoosier Buddies. The Hoosier Bison Buddies Club, Eddie. Would you like to join the Hoosier Bison Buddies Club?
I'm not a kid.
I know.
As much as you like to think I am.
I know, but I'm a big fan of mascots, and they give out T-shirts and the whole deal. You think I could rig it? Just sign up for it? I'd like to be a Hoosier Bison Buddy. Mike, do you have kids? Are they a Hoosier Bison Buddy?
I do have kids. They're not Hoosier Bison buddies yet, as of yet.
Oh, yet?
Well, yet. Yeah, that's right.
We'll see. We'll see what the Bison does. We'll see how he does. They're going to wait. They got to look at some film. See how he does.
The Bison's here for the long haul, though, right? They're not packing in early on the Bison. He's here for good, right?
We'll see. Well, if they had lost that game, I don't know. Does he go back on the plane? And
in 78 or whatever it was, they brought the Bison out for 3 weeks. He had a big nose ring, and then all of a sudden he went back to whatever band he was with. We never heard from him.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah. He could change his mind.
Apparently he liked to roam.
Will we get a live Bison at one point?
That'd be awesome. But Colorado's kind of got the market on that, unfortunately. But that's a buffalo, not a bison, right? All right, Mike, we appreciate the time as always, man. Look forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me.
Mike Nizilik joining us from the Bloomington Herald-Times. I think when they say the Hoosier Bison Buddies Club, it of course reminds me of Buddy's buddy.
My buddy.
No, but when Dave First and I in the year 2000, First and I decided to go to a Reds game. And so he picks me up to go to the Reds game, and I walk out, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and I'm like, oh, boy. And we were wearing the exact same shorts and exact same T-shirt. We looked like twins. It was horrifically embarrassing. So I think one of us, we stopped at the Walmart in Batesville on the way down and bought a different colored T-shirt. So then we go to the Reds game, and we decide that we're going to do a nightcap by driving across to Louisville and going to the Louisville River Bats game, which sounded like a good idea until about halfway across 64, and we're tired. So we go and we're slap happy, and we go to the Louisville River Bats game. And my favorite story of all time that I've told, the River Bats had a mascot named Buddy the Bat. Now he's a bat yeah, that's exactly what, except for it's now you would think, because they're the Louisville Bats, like Louisville Slugger, that it's a wooden bat. No, it's a flying bat, right? So Buddy the Bat has some little bit he does where he takes a go-kart and he does laps around the outfield, which was pretty exciting and fun during the 7th inning stretch. But he went a little hot in the left field, and the left side rubber touched the warning track, causing a massive flip. And and kids are in the crowd, right? And they're aghast in horror as literally all of a sudden this go-kart goes flying through the air, and Buddy is, you could see one little wing flap, And then Buddy lands, which is he looked to be okay until the go-kart landed on top of him, leading to an aghast of horror amongst the 1,200 fans in attendance and snickering from two people that are wearing the same colored shorts, and myself and Dave first. And for whatever reason, we found this, and then they came over the loudspeaker and said, and I quote, "Don't worry, kids, Buddy's on his way." And this some college intern that more waddled than ran had to work his way out to the outfield and then lift the go-kart up over, and then the like broken winged bat had to limp his way back to the dugout. And this is literally, and this is a sign of my maturation, this is the first time in a quarter century I've told that story without breaking into like absolute, complete, tear-covered laughter.
Not even a giggle.
I know. Well, I've told the story so many times, but it was awesome.
Do you think when you tell the story about Michael Young and the plane incident that you'll be able to contain yourself ever?
Don't worry, kids. Buddy's on his way out. And like kids are in sheer horror and terror. And Dave and I are slap happy and just okay. That first might actually now be a member of the Hoosier Bison Buddies Club. Just based on the fact, if I send him this picture that the Hoosier Bison Buddies Club is taking members, he'll immediately think of Buddy's Buddy. I guarantee it. And the flapping wing.
Do it.
I will.
Test your theory.
I'll send it to him right now and see what he says. Matt Verderame, by the way, in just over 10. You know, they the Hoosier Bison Buddies Club, They have 2 membership groups, Eddie, Cream and Crimson. Which one would you like for me to sign up for you? Now, the Crimson Club, it looks like you get a Buddies Club tailgate. Tailgate? But they got the kids out there tailgating? The Hoosier Bison Buddies Club rally towel you get with the Cream membership?
Saying cream on the radio sounds inappropriate.
You get to meet Hoosier the Bison in a meet and greet? Well, that sounds fun, right? Shake hooves?
Shake hooves.
Yeah. You get exclusive Hoosier Bison Buddies Club goodies like sunglasses, a water bottle, and a wristband.
Hoosier Bison.
Now, if you do the Cream membership, you get a membership badge, a T-shirt, free admission to Olympic sports, and a Hoosier Bison Buddies Club tour.
Well, you're leaving out a part of the difference between the two, Jake.
One's free and one's not, right?
There you go.
Yeah. Well, then I'll sign you up for the freebie. You just don't get – I don't think you get to bump hooves. But other than that, everything's good, right? I'm all in on the Bison. I'm cool with it. Like when he skydived, I'm like, okay, this is cool.
Now it's worth noting, Jake, that tailgate is only against Kennesaw State.
What sort of tailgating do they have for the members of the Hoosier Bison Buddies Club?
Do they serve bison?
That would seem cannibalistic. I would think,
Well, it's kind of like at the state fair. You go from the swine bar. Next thing you know, there's
some-
all this pork right outside the swine bar.
Fair. Yes, there has to be a separation of reality, a suspension of reality there. The Hoosier Bison Buddies Club, the tailgate for the kiddies, what do they have, like unlimited Little Debbie's? Is it sponsored by, or is it more like the Peanuts characters and it's sponsored by Dolly Madison Snack Cakes? I'm down with it. Now, if you're looking at mascots in the Big Ten, and you know that I love mascots. The hierarchy of Big Ten mascots, okay? Here we go. You ready? We can do this fairly quickly. With Ohio State, you obviously got, what's the fellow's name, Brutus?
Yes, Brutus.
Yeah, he's boorish. Okay, then Michigan, do they have a Wolverine?
I don't think so.
Is Chief Illini he went away on vacation, right? And he's not come back? I think Chief Illini has been retired. He's retired now. He lives in a retirement home. He's gone at Illinois. What's the fella's name, the Gopher? Is there a Gopher? Does he have a name?
They do have a gopher.
Look up his name. I'll bet it's Goldie. Goldie the Gopher's my guess. The Hawkeye?
It is Goldie the gopher.
Is it really Goldie the Gopher?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Okay, then the Hawkeye, what's his name? Does he have a name? I mean, he's okay, but he's just kind of he's got a...
Herky.
Excuse me?
Herky.
Yeah,
H-E-R-K-Y.
He's off the list right there.
Herky the Hawk.
Okay, then you got Purdue Pete, right?
Mm-hmm.
Purdue Pete's solid, no doubt about that. Bucky the Badger, right? He's good. I got no problem with him. What's Northwestern? What's the Wildcats' name? He's okay. Does he have a name?
I'll look it up.
Okay. I'd like to know,
Willie the Wildcat.
Excuse me?
Willie the Wildcat.
I mean, that's...
his head doesn't fit his shoulders.
He's a mascot. What are we getting? We getting into dimensions?
Look at
of
that
heads?
head, Jake. It's like tiny.
Well, look who's talking. Hell, you're like Purdue Pete over there, right?
Hey, there's no shame in my game.
You and your 9 3/8 head. Okay, the Oregon Duck. It goes without saying. I mean, that's you're looking at the very top there. You don't like cream again, but I'll say creme de la creme on the Oregon Duck. Washington Husky. They don't have a guy, do they? Herky the Husky or something.
Don't forget about Sparty.
Oh, Sparty. Yeah, that's a good one. Sparty goes without saying.
Harry the Husky.
Harry the Husky. Not bad. I'm down with that. I'm okay with Harry. Okay, then USC, does the Trojan have a name? He just rides around on a horse, right? But it's a live guy, right?
Traveler.
Excuse me?
That's the name of the mascot, Traveler.
Yeah, I mean, I get the point there, but no. And then the Bruin. Does he have a name? The Bruin's not bad. I think in the hierarchy here, I mean...
Joe Bruin.
Joe? Are you serious? His name's Joe?
Joe Bruin, yeah.
What is the origin there? Is there a guy, Joe? I mean, do they have a contest at the Perkins of Bel Air and some guy named Joe came up with it in 1948? Because the Cal Bear and the UCLA Bruin both are uniforms that the mascot outfits look like they bought them at a garage sale like 74 years ago. The Cal Bear is flat out creepy looking. And this is Cal Berkeley's one of the most prestigious universities in America, and their mascot is terrible. I mean, he's kind of fun because he looks like an old style teddy bear, which is kind of cool, but there's an element of creepy to it. Did you look up the origin of Joe? You said Joe the Bruin?
Yep.
It's like Joe Average. Does he drink a lot of coffee? Is that what's going on there?
I'm not sure.
I think automatically Hoosier Bison and his buddies are
Josephine and Joe Bruin.
Excuse me?
Josephine and Joe Bruin.
Okay.
They're a married couple.
I think Hoosier Bison is automatically wedging himself right in the middle of the pack at the very least. Ducks up there got decapitated over the weekend. That was rough for the kids. But the Oregon Duck is high on the list. Purdue Pete goes without saying. Until they redid Purdue Pete that one year, and that lasted about as long as that 70s Bison. I'm just telling you. Todd Myers walks in. That means I'm about to get chastised over our mascot talk, and it's probably a good idea because Matt Verderame joins us and does so next. As I mentioned earlier, I don't know what to think of the fact that in our time together, that's the best audio Eddie Garrison can come up with to commemorate the fact that it is, in fact, like a completely meaningless birthday. I mean, every birthday is meaningful, but 53 doesn't rank where like 50 or 60 or, I'm at the point now where it's just the decades only. But in fact, thank you to everybody who has wished me a happy birthday. It is greatly appreciated, and I am well aware of the fortunes, of kind of living the dream, truth be told. And
Working with me.
That's right.
That's the biggest fortune ever.
It is the...
Why win the $1 billion Powerball when you can spend a day with me every day?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, not that I've done the numbers, but it would be $312 million after taxes that you walk away with. And that would probably mean that, Eddie, you're hosting on Wednesday or Thursday or whatever day after the drawing. But nonetheless, I do appreciate everybody listening to this show and making that every day possible for us. Joining us now on the program on the always busy guest line. Of course, he is with Sports Illustrated. We talk a lot of football with him, and he is a huge fan of the Taco Bell Cantina. We've talked about that downtown. Matt Verderame joining us on the show. Matt, how are you?
I'd be better if I was at a Taco Bell Cantina, but I'm fine. How are you doing?
We're good, thank you. Listen, I'm going to begin right out of the box with this. I'm very curious of the national perspective here because I feel like, and I fear, and I want you to tell me if I'm wrong, I worry that the Colts have actually become this franchise that, we put in the same category as like the Arizona Cardinals or the Carolina Panthers. Like if you weren't in market, they're kind of nationally obscure and anonymous. Is that where Indianapolis is now?
Yeah. I mean, to be brutally honest, yeah. I think a lot of it is just the quarterback situation. And you look at it and go, all right, what is the realistic ceiling for that team? Like if everything, reasonable, good health, no crazy bad luck, like what's the ceiling? And, look, part of it is the division. The division's sexy. Like nobody in that division stands out. I mean, Cam Ward's the number one pick in the draft. He's a quarterback. I can't think of a quarterback who's been number one pick in the draft who's been talked about less. Like Cam Ward, it feels like he barely exists nationally. Jacksonville is not a team that a lot of people spend a lot of time talking about. I think Houston last year had buzz. This year it's the opposite. But the Colts, it's just, I was at camp. I saw them. They were part of my tour, and I think the roster is good. Like, I really do like the roster. But when you look at those quarterbacks, I think from a national perspective, you just go, well, yeah, they're in a conference with Mahomes and Burrow and Allen and Lamar and Stroud and Herbert, and it's over. They're not going to be relevant because they don't have a quarterback.
Matt, I keep going back to this. And at the quarterback position, I'm weighing back and forth, and I want you to tell me, because you have a better perspective here, because you look around and you cover multiple franchises. We're pigeonholed a little bit to our understanding being Indianapolis. You have a better barometer of comparison. Do you believe that Daniel Jones has been selected by Shane Steichen as the starting quarterback because they really feel that Daniel Jones could be getting a second lease here and with a better roster can be a better quarterback than what we saw in New York at no fault of his own? Or do you believe it simply is because they just don't think they can go with Anthony Richardson?
So I think it's a combination of a few things. And look, one of them is, I remember the day I was there, it was about 100 degrees, but I remember I was there with Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, Zach Kiefer, of course, of The Athletic, and then there was another gentleman from the USA Today, I'm forgetting his name, but we were in a breakout group with Anthony Richardson. And at one point, I forget which one of us asked him a question. He was talking, and and I'm paraphrasing, but he essentially said, well, I've just learned that I've got to stop slacking off. And when he said that, we all just kind of looked at each other like, that's a hell of a quote. I led my camp report with it that day. So if anyone wants to check it out and read, you can read the exact quote. And I remember walking out of there thinking, this guy's not going to win this job. There's just no way. Like, I mean, even if that's true and he's totally bought in and he's 100%, like, you've been here, this is the third year you've been here. And like, that's like where you're at right now. Like, you've got to try hard. Like, and maybe he meant it another way. Who knows? I'm not him. But the way he said that, That's alarming. And I think, look, last year when he pulled himself out of that game in Houston, I know the Colts tried to downplay that. Anybody who's ever been in the locker room, that's a hard thing to come back from. You're the quarterback. You don't pull yourself out of the game unless you're dead or you're told to come out of the game. But there is just no other way. And so I think part of it was they felt like to go with Jones. The other part of it is, look, Steichen looks at Daniel Jones and sees a guy who has mobility, who completes a high percentage of his passes, and who doesn't throw interceptions. And I think he looks at that and says, if he can just do that, throw for 3,500 yards and 18 touchdowns, but he throws 5 picks, I can win with that guy. We can play better defense than we played a year ago. We can run the heck out of the ball. We can let our playmakers make plays, and we can go 9-8 and be competitive in this division. Maybe even somehow sneak it out. But I think that's what he sees in Jones, where you look at Richardson and go, he might complete 49% of his passes and throw 15 picks. You can't win like that in the NFL. I think that was ultimately the decision.
Do you think, Matt, Chris Ballard publicly, I'm not saying that I believe this, but publicly, and I understand it, Chris Ballard still stands by Anthony Richardson and says, and I know Anthony Richardson's young. I don't think he's a bad guy, whatever.
No.
Do you think the rest of the league feels that way? If Arizona or Carolina, insert name of franchise, if somebody said to them, hey, you can have Anthony Richardson for a 5th rounder right now, would they be tempted by that, or do you think the rest of the league thinks, no thanks?
I think that for that kind of a compensation, yes. I think they would have a lot of suitors. But if I'm in Indianapolis, I'm sitting there going, look, Daniel Jones isn't the guy long term. Let's just face it. Like, he's another guy, and Colts fans don't want to hear it because they've had one guy after the next since Andrew Luck retired. But Daniel Jones is a bridge to hopefully not another bridge, hopefully the actual guy. So I think the Colts are sitting there going, look, if we trade Richardson, what do we do? Like, what if Jones is terrible for the first month of the season? What if he's awful? And we're going to go back to Richardson now. Look, that might be between a rock and a hard place at that point. But, I actually wondered if, like, a team like the Saints would call the Colts up and say, hey, look, we'll give you a 3rd-round pick for him. We'll, 3rd, 4th round, whatever. Now they don't have their 4th traded to Denver Bailey, but, like, we'll give you a 3rd. And maybe it's one of these things where, hey, look, it's conditional. Like, if he comes over here and he plays great, then, like, you'll get, like, a day 3 pick 2 down the road or something. And I thought maybe if, like, a team like New Orleans did that, like, maybe at that point you're you're like, okay, look, their 3rd-round pick is basically like a late second. But it's tough. There's a lot going against Richardson right now. He has not been good. He has also been injured. There's also questions about, like, how committed are you? And then there's also the other side of it, too, where it's like, look, you just got benched for Daniel Jones by a team that took you 4th overall a couple of years ago. Like, they didn't bench him because they signed Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
They benched him for Daniel Jones, who's on a 1-year contract, who was on the Vikings practice squad last year. Like, it's just really hard to get any value for a guy who's in that kind of situation.
Yeah, and I think he's also in this real danger zone, Matt, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, where the part of the stigma with Richardson at this point is the fact that it's between the ears. And I don't mean to say that his lack of intellect, but there have been very, very good, sharp, excellent TV analyst guys that when the arrows are flying past him at the quarterback position just simply could not process. And I think that's the biggest danger, is the narrative is that he can't process. And am I correct in saying that's a real hard thing to get away from?
It's a death sentence. If you can't do that, you're done. There's no fixing that. You're not just going to all of a sudden learn how to. I've always compared the NFL quarterback position to standing on a freeway. It's basically like trying to play quarterback on a freeway, and you've got to be able to stand in there, read the progressions, understand. And I think this is the most underrated thing with fans. You've got to understand what's going on pre-snap. You got to get out of the huddle and to the line of scrimmage, 15 or so seconds on that clock, and understand, okay, reading the safeties, I'm getting a single high look. I now know that my X receiver, he's going to be open on this curl route. And I've got to make sure I hold the safety and then throw, you've got to do all that in the span of about 7-8 seconds, maybe 10 if you get to the line quick enough. And then if you're wrong, you've got to be able to adjust. If you're right, you've got to be able to execute what you know you've got to do. And do all that while you've got 4 or 5 guys who are running a 4.5 or 260 pounds coming at you. Like, It's hard. There's a reason that in the NFL, how many quarterbacks are truly elite players?
Correct.
6, 7. Like it is immensely difficult.
Who's the best in the league at that? I mean, I know that Allen and Mahomes are outstanding at improvising when the arrows are flying once they're in the freeway, right? But but give me a guy that doesn't maybe get his proper due for it, but you're like, man, that guy is – the computer is going the second he breaks the huddle.
I would say it's Burrow. Like, I think Burrow, when you watch him, he very rarely makes a mistake. I mean, he'll throw an incompletion like anybody else, but he very rarely does he just throw a ball where it just shouldn't go. I mean, he's very, very smart that way. I do think Mahomes is underrated in that regard because he's so spectacular post-snap. But there are a lot of times with Mahomes where you watch him. I mean, heck, the game-winning drive against the Niners in the Super Bowl was massive. I mean, if you watch the mic'd up of that, he's telling the guys before they're even breaking the huddle, before even sees their defense, hey, I'm coming to you. I'm going to throw the ball right here. I mean, and that comes with experience. There are certain guys where just the brain works the right way. They're brilliant at it. Manning, of course, I mean, you could argue he was the best ever at that, where he was his own offensive coordinator.
Right.
You know, he was really the last guy to just call his own plays. And the truly great ones, the Mannings, the Brady, even the Mahomes, like Montana, those guys, they win the play before it even starts.
But you know, Matt, doesn't that even for a Manning? I mean, listen, I covered Peyton Manning's career from the time, the entire time, right? Even for a Manning, it felt like it took 20 starts before it started to hit before it was finally on the people mover at the airport, right, where it's just moving automatically. And that's the I mean, to me, and that's the challenge with Richardson, is at some point you also then get to a point where you're too far gone, right? Enough time's passed.
Well, that's the thing, and that's why I was curious to see. I thought after they signed Jones that they'd play him, but there was a part of me that held off writing that because it was, well, if you're the Colts, do you just say, to hell with it, we're going to play him. We're just going to play him as long as he's healthy, 17 games, and we're just going to see, does he learn as he goes, and by the end of the year, he's a lot better. Now, apparently they just don't feel that's going to happen. But look, and this is not just on Anthony Richardson. Like, I'll give you another example in the league right now that's going to be talked about a lot more this year because they're going to be on national TV starting week 1. Caleb Williams and the Bears. I mean, that is a thing. Like, he got sacked 68 times last year. And their offensive line was not good. But part of that was Caleb Williams was just hold on to the ball and get crushed. And if you go back and you watch, there were times you're like, man, that ball's just got to be out. That guy is open 5 yards in front of you when it's first and 10. Like, you've got to just get rid of it. And the game felt fast at times. And I was at OTAs with the Bears. I was at training camp during a joint practice with the Bears. And look, he had some really nice plays. There were also times I stood next to a former NFL player during one of the practices. I'm sitting there talking to him. And, like those guys will do. They break the huddle. He's like, okay, it's this play. He's got to go here. And that's exactly what should have happened, but he hold the football. And it's like, look, that ball, if you're holding the ball for 3+ seconds in the NFL, that's death. You're either going to get crushed or something bad's probably going to happen downfield. And I think for Richardson, the thing that's really hurt him is just he hasn't gotten experience. He's been hurt, been out of the lineup. He didn't play. I mean, he didn't have 1,000 pass attempts between high school and college. It's hard. It's really hard to master something when you're not doing it.
You know, Matt, I remember Matt Verderame is our guest from Sports Illustrated. I remember when going back to Manning and Tom Moore, and it's a famous story around here probably, but early in Manning's career, they're going through live simulations, and Manning holds onto the football. And Tom Moore says, what are you doing? You got to get rid of the ball. And Manning said, well, nobody was open. And Tom Moore said, that's where you're wrong. Everybody on that field was NFL open. They're not SEC open, but they're NFL open. And Manning talks about how you had to learn that, right? The window is a third of what it is in terms of the college time. And I think being able to recognize that, Matt, is what is so hard for guys, right? And even the best, I think it struggles to learn that, right?
It's so true. Look, I was actually talking to a colleague about all this stuff the other day about quarterbacks. And, look, it's when you're playing, like, let's just take Richardson, for example. So, okay, you're playing best team. If you're playing Alabama, you're playing Georgia. That team might have, defensively speaking, 3 to 4 NFL starters on it. and the rest of those guys are, by NFL standards, they're guys. Like, you can throw the ball past the linebackers here. You can throw on that corner. That safety runs a 4.7. Like, that guy's not closing in time. You get to the NFL, I don't care who you are. If you're in the NFL and you're playing, you're not a 4.7 safety. You're running a 4.45. You can drive on the ball. You are breaking on a ball based on the formation and knowing, okay, this guy's split is X. I know that based on that split, he can run these two routes, and I know that guy runs out the one route 3 times more than he runs the other route, and I'm going to break before he even throws the football. And that's the game within the game that in college doesn't exist. The other part of it is, you watch a college game this Saturday, look at the hash marks on the field, how wide they are. When the ball's on one side of the field, I've talked to coaches about this a lot recently. Like, when the ball's on one side of the field, that other side, that wide side, is huge. I mean, there's acres of space to just flip the ball out there. That doesn't exist in the NFL.
Right.
There's no easy little flip throw for 8 yards. In the NFL, there's no wide side like that. So it's the openness that you get on 10, 15 throws in college football every game that doesn't exist at the NFL level.
Okay, Matt, I'm going to introduce you to this little game we've done. In conclusion, I appreciate your time, Matt Verderame, because I know you're a busy guy, especially this time of year. But we've been doing this all week. I'm going to give you 3 categories. I want you to tell me for each the team that immediately comes into the head of Matt Verderame. Okay, I'll describe the team for this season, and then you tell me which one it matches. Okay? Team number 1. This is the team that you haven't thought a lot about. You haven't written a lot about them. There's not a lot of conversation about them. But late October, early November, all of a sudden you're going to go, are they good? Like, they're 6-3 now, and I think they might actually be good. And they just kind of become that team that you're like, yeah, they had a nice year. They're the Washington Commanders of this year, like Washington did last year. That team for you this year is most likely to be who?
They won't go as far as Washington, but I think it's New England. I think New England's going to make the playoffs because I think May is good. I think it'd be really good. McDaniel's is a terrible head coach, but he's a good offensive coordinator. And Vrabel's a very good head coach. They added a lot in free agency. I love their draft. I think all 4 of the first guys they took are all going to play. I think Henderson's going to be really good immediately in the backfield. I don't think they're going to challenge Buffalo to win the division, but I think they're a 9 or 10 win team. I think they're going to be a wild card team.
Okay. Team number 2. This is one that, there's usually some talk about them, some conversation. They're kind of slotted as a playoff potential team. And yet, all of a sudden, around November, you're going to go, I don't think this is going to get footing for them this year. They're just stuck in neutral, and they're this year's Bengals, and I don't know what's going on. That's who?
The Niners. I just don't. I don't see it. Like, maybe I'm dead wrong. Ayuk's hurt. Kittle's older. McCaffrey is not old, but for a running back, he's getting older and he's hurt a lot. Williams is older. Defensively, it's 2 guys. It's Warner and it's Bosa, and it is nobody else. I don't know. I think that I would not be shocked if they finish third in that division. I think they're like a 7th pick.
Okay, and then lastly, not named the Dallas Cowboys, the franchise that after a month or so, it's like, here comes the drama. There was a fight in the locker room. Supposedly this guy's unhappy. There's tension with the coaches, and it's like, you know what? This is the Colts bringing in Jeff Saturday, mid-year level, total dysfunction, and it's just a year that is wasted. That franchise is who?
The team that'll be in Indianapolis on Sunday, not named the Colts. I look at the Dolphins, and I'm not a big vibes guy. I kind of think it's over it. That team has been a disaster this summer. I mean, if anything could go, I feel like we're like a half a football away from Tyreek Hill just openly asking to be traded during halftime.
Pulling in Antonio Brown?
That's right.
Yeah, I think they're going to go to Evan Washburn or whoever the hell's in the sideline for that game. Tyreek Hill just told me he wants to be traded. I don't know. You look at them their first 2 games of the Colts, and they're home to New England in Miami, and then play the Bills on a Thursday night in Week 3 in Buffalo. It feels like they better win those first 2 games, and I don't think they're gonna. But if they do, that might be a salve for them a little bit. If they start out 0-2 and they're going to Buffalo, I feel like Mike McDaniel's looking at his job in the middle of October. But yeah, I don't see it at all with them. I'd be shocked if they're good.
Eddie, do you happen to have the breaking news sounder? This March just in. Things starting to look up towards the Colts perhaps winning their first season opening game in 11 seasons. Matt, do you want to?
I'm taking them.
Listen
I'm
to this.
I'm going to ride them.
Do you want to guess? If you get this right, Matt Verderame, I will actually go down right now. I will have Eddie finish the show. I will walk down to the Taco Bell Cantina, buy you gift cards and a box, and ship it out east to you right now. You ready? If you get this right. The starting quarterback of the opposition the last time that the Indianapolis Colts won a game in week 1 was who?
Oh, my God. You said it was like 11 years ago.
AFC West.
AFC West. All right. I mean, I'll throw a dart here and say, God almighty. Who was it? Was it Manning?
No.
Was it Luck and Manning? No? Okay. I mean, God, it was
That's a good
surprised
guess.
to me on the Raiders.
That's a good guess.
Did they beat the Raiders?
They did?
Okay, so it was just some clown. Who was it, Carr?
It's some clown, he says. It's a Raider.
What is it? It's the Raiders. They've been atrocious for 25 years. It could have been anybody.
This guy changed positions.
The Raiders, by the way, are my pick, Matt, for what you said about the Patriots. I think the Raiders this year are going to be surprisingly good. I'm not saying great, but I think they're going to be competent. How's that?
Listen, I mean, they could be. The hard thing for them is just that division. But on the flip side, I don't think the Chargers are good. So maybe the Raiders are better than the Chargers. I mean, it'd be interesting.
How about this? For the
if
answer, what if I told you free tattoos in college?
Oh, my God. All right.
He switched positions.
Yeah, he was
in the pros.
Correct. He became a receiver.
Was it Terrell Pryor?
Terrell Pryor, baby. Terrell Pryor.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't know if I'm hanging the banner for that one if I'm the Colts.
It only counts as a half a win, but we take it.
Oh, my God. I said when you said it was the Raiders, I'm like, it's going to be somebody ridiculous. I mean, you remember there was a playoff game. They saw like Connor Cook or something like some ridiculous thing that your car got hurt. It was like Matt McGloin.
I forgot about that. Yeah, he had a hot girlfriend. That guy. They kept showing her in the crowd. I remember that much.
The game wasn't working.
Okay. Lastly, Matt, are you going to watch the Dolphins Colts game from Club Applebee's?
I'm actually going to watch it. No, thank God. No, the answer. I am going to watch it from New York. I'm flying out there. I'm going to be out there for the weekend, see a little family, and then work from out there, and then come back and cover Vikings Bears, and then Packers Commanders on Thursday. And no, I'll be keeping an eye though. The Colts, if they lose to the Dolphins, every alarm bell in the world should go off. But they have to win that game at home against Miami.
The Colts do. They open at home with two of them, the Dolphins and the Broncos, two teams, as I've mentioned, that they may well be, if they are hoping to be a wild card team. You know what I mean? They got to win one, if not both of them.
Win them. You got to win those games. Like they count as like a game and a half.
You're right.
If you're talking about, I mean, look, I don't think Miami's going to be there, but if you're the Colts, that's a game you have to win. And then Denver, like, it's not like Denver's offense is unbelievable. Like, go out there and win 17-13.
With Daniel Jones, that's the game plan, right?
That's it.
Matt, we appreciate it, man. As always, safe travels to you, all right?
Hey, thanks a lot. Take care, guys.
All right, Matt Verderame, who is nonstop energy. That guy's great. And by the way, if you listen to this, and I want to make clear that people understand, when he was talking about Caleb Williams, because that New York accent comes into play, which I love. But when he said that Caleb Williams has been sacked last year, was sacked 68 times, it sounded like he had sex 68 times. and I don't know the personal life of Caleb Williams in any way, shape, or form. It's none of my business. But he was saying that he had been sacked 68 times.
Boy, Jake, you know that there is an avenue to where the Colts could beat the Broncos. You can think about it. They were on the road in Denver last year. And if Jonathan Taylor doesn't drop the ball at the goal line,
totally changes everything, right?
Yeah, it totally did, because that was the beginning of the downhill spiral. By the way, I thought you were trying to make a pun there at the end of that conversation when you said there were games that the Colts had to win to start the year.
Nice. What I would be saying is this. The Colts open against Miami and Denver, right? For their playoff chances, they'd like to win Tua, or else it actually kind of nicks the opportunity to get into the wild card. See what I did there?
You're here all week.
I am here all week, right? That wasn't bad, though, was it?
Not terrible.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Big news that we told you yesterday. If you listened to this show, you were on top of it at the water cooler this morning.
You were informed
yesterday. Came out earlier.
Educated.
Correct. You were educated yesterday, and it came true today. I will tell you what that is next. Listen, when this song came out, it was one of those that it was like eggnog. Like you like it at first, and then as soon as you had too much of it, you're like, okay, that escalated quickly.
Need to apologize to Bo from Ohio because I remember him a few weeks ago, Jake. We kept playing the Proclaimers every Friday for some reason, just randomly. He said, "Oh, great! I just got that on my head," and then you brought up the Macarena, so I just did both. I may have really irked Mel from Ohio off a little bit. I played both songs today.
You know, the other one that gets stuck in your head is that "Get Knocked Down and Back Up Again."
I'm unfamiliar.
Oh, come on! You have to know that song. There's no way you don't know that song. You know what I'm talking about, right?
There's too many of those songs, Jake.
It's some band called like Chumbawamba.
Oh, yes.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. And then at the end, strangely, what's the song that at the very end it has the subtlety of, what song is this? You ready? Dun 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 dun. Is that what's that to? What's that? What's
no
that?
idea.
Somebody help me out here. Do 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 do. Is that it's like a wedding song, right?
I don't know.
That plays at the end of that. I get knocked down and back up again. It's very subtle at the end of it. The announcement came today, what we told you yesterday, and I get it. I totally understand. I mean, we are on the cusp of the NFL season. We talked earlier today. Charles Davis joined us, who's going to be on the call, CBS, Colts and Dolphins coming up on Sunday. We talked to Mike Nizilik earlier about Indiana football and got Eddie signed up as one of the Hoosier Bison buddies, which is fun.
Let's go.
And we also talked just then with Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated about the Colts' upcoming season and the NFL in general. So we've talked plenty. And we have the Dolphins there as well. Now, do we need to do a sound effect for each and every week of the season? Do we have a Bronco sound effect?
It'd just be a horse, would it not?
Yeah, but I mean, a bucking horse of some sort, I would assume, right? Bell's Cannon, thank you from Paul Hurley, better known as Paul the Mailman.
Oh,
or
we
Paul
love
the
Paul.
Photographer.
We
Bell's
love
Cannon,
all of our
thank
Pauls.
you.
We've got like 4 of them.
We do. Giddy Paul, Paul the Mailman, Paul the
Paulie.
Photographer. What's that?
Paulie.
Paulie, yeah, we got Paulie. Paulie, who's still looking to move in Broad Ripple. But we talked plenty NFL today, and I realized that, that IndyCar is a more niche sport. But when you're talking about drivers like Will Power, who is an Indy 500 champion, a season champion, and I mentioned his story yesterday. I went into pretty big detail about just his story and how I think he's a guy that a lot of people can root for. And I told you yesterday that Power was out at Verizon and that he was going to end up driving the ride that Colton Herta was going to vacate because Colton Herta is going to go test the waters in Formula One. And to recap what I mentioned yesterday, to drive in Formula One, you have to get what's called a super license. And the super license comes by way of being involved in different series feeding into Formula One. IndyCar is not one of them. So for Colton Herta to drive in Formula One and drive for the Cadillac Formula One team, which is affiliated with Andretti Global, which is the team he drives for in IndyCar, and the Cadillac Formula One team, which is going to be based right here in central Indiana on the northeast side of town, which is pretty cool to have an F1 team based right here in Indiana. The Colton Herta is going to go and be a test driver for that Cadillac F1 team, and that will open the door for him to eventually get that super licensing and get into driving Formula One.
I think, Jake, anytime you reference the Colton Herta situation, he goes, he needs a super license.
Yes, the super license that allows him to run everywhere, including in Monaco, and in watch Ulysses Bentley Lafort play for the Colts on the practice squad. But similar, right? A test driver, practice squad, not necessarily practice squad, but kind of. But so Colton Herta doing that vacates his position with the team for car number 26. That is domino number 2. Will Power is officially now slotted to take over that car for next year. Now, that means that Will Power's old car number 12, is still available. He is now going over to take over Colton Herta's ride. The immediate reaction would be, okay, so that means Andretti Global next year is going to have Will Power, Kyle Kirkwood, and Marcus Ericsson. There's a little bit of a curveball with that because Marcus Ericsson's job, even though he has a year left on his contract, there is some speculation that he could be out and that they could find someone to drive that car that Marcus Ericsson currently has. And the thought on that is Dennis Hauger, who's a native of Norway, who is the Indy Next champion, and who won the Indy Next championship while driving for Andretti Global. And that championship does come with what's called scholarship money, money to help one get a ride in the NTT IndyCar Series. And with Dennis Hauger, there has been some conversation that he could end up in Marcus Ericsson's seat for next season. I don't believe that to be the case. He may eventually end up there, but I don't think it's going to be next year. I think Dennis Hauger is instead going to be driving for Dale Coyne Racing. Thus, another domino. David Malukas is going to leave AJ Foyt Racing and car number 4 and go drive for Roger Penske and Will Power's old job in car number 12. That then leaves that AJ Foyt Racing car number 4 seat open. This is where things get interesting. Larry Foyt is essentially the team principal, if you will, for AJ Foyt Racing. And Larry Foyt, and I like that team. They already have Santana Ferrucci confirmed for next year. And Larry Foyt is a really good guy and has done a really good job with that team. Really good job. That team has a partnership, a technical alliance, as they call it, with Team Penske. If you're Larry Foyt, you're looking at that open seat with Malukas leaving, and you're saying, okay, I have a couple of options here. One is I could take, say, Connor Daly, if he's bringing money from AMPM with him. That's the sponsor. Another is I could put Dennis Hauger in that seat. And then there's option 3, which I think is the one that's going to happen. I was told over the weekend in Nashville, as I've relayed, from someone with knowledge of it for certain, that Team Penske has always kind of kept one eye on the driving skill and the pattern and the path, I should say, of Rinus VeeKay. And VeeKay yesterday announced that he is declining an option to stay with Dale Coyne Racing. It's not to say he can't go back there, but for right now, they offered him a contract extension, and he declined it. I think that Rinus VeeKay will end up in the number 4 car for AJ Foyt Racing so long as Penske, for example, is able to help compensate that, because VeeKay wants more money than probably Larry Foyt at this point can afford. That's where Connor Daly is also a possibility there, because if Connor Daly is bringing money with him, that offsets cost for Larry Foyt's team and AJ Foyt Racing. But I think that Penske is going to put Rinus VeeKay in that 4 car, because I think they believe in his talent and would like to continue to watch him and see, basically in an understudy type program, to see if it's somebody that they then could have long term. That would be an ideal landing spot for VeeKay, not only because it's a good seat and a good team, but also because I think it is increasingly possible, if not even probable, that Joseph Newgarden is looking to move on from Team Penske. I don't know what it, and I like Joseph Newgarden a great deal, and he is a fabulous talent. I don't know if it was just everything that's gone on with Team Penske. I don't know what it is, but there's increased conversation that Newgarden may want out from that team and try to land, for example, at Arrow McLaren in another year. If that's the case and that 2-seat opens up, that's one of the most coveted positions in motorsport. And VeeKay could put himself in position there to then be part of a team that would have Scott McLaughlin, David Malukas, and Rinus VeeKay, say, in another year from now. The there's a lot to unpack in that aspect and area of that. In terms of Will Power, in one of the episodes of 100 Days to Indy, there was, from this past May, an off-topic conversation where Liz Power, Will Power's wife, had made reference to the fact that perhaps Will would be better served being with a new team next year, which we now know is going to happen with Andretti Global. But I think VK is going to end up in that 4 seat. I think that's going to be the next domino to fall, and I think that's going to happen in a couple of days once you hear Malukas confirmed for certain for that 12, right? So there's a lot there, but that's where things stand. Hey, Jake, is Tim Cindric permanently out of a job in IndyCar?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think Tim Cindric would be welcomed back by a number of teams, but it is my understanding and talking to people this weekend that for now, yes, Cindric is essentially retired. His son is still a driver for Team Penske on the NASCAR side of things.
Is that awkward at all?
That's a good question. I would think it has to be a little bit, right? Tim Cindric, who was the team president for Penske and was let go this year after the month of May, along with Ron Rusanowski, who retired, and then Kyle Moyer, who is now with Arrow McLaren. But that's where things stand right now. Malukas will be the next domino now to fall, and that's going to be when it's announced that he's going to Will Power's car, and then I would anticipate Rinus VK ending up in that 4 seat for AJ Foyt, but Connor Daly, don't rule him out. As for Dale Coyne, in the end, I think they're going to be a 2-car team, and I think it's going to be that aforementioned Dennis Hauger who's going to be there, and I think he's going to be partnered with Romain Grosjean. And then as for Juncos Hollinger Racing, which currently has Connor Daly and Stingray Robb, I think they may merge with Prema Racing, Robert Schwartzman in 1 seat, and then probably Stingray Robb or maybe Connor in the other. That's probably a lot more than people were anticipating, but that's where things stand, but it's fun to talk about, right? And yes, LJ is correct. Tim Cindric was about set to retire anyway, and certainly he has enough money to, for certain, through his own, through he and his wife and everything else. So I certainly would understand that.
This is Will Power, and I'm in the company.
Yes. How about that? He's in the company with Andretti Global now too, right? Still efforting, as the kids say, but it looks like Will Power is a possibility for tomorrow to join the program. But I'm assuming right now, I talked via text with Will Power yesterday. That was contingent. That was the contingency plan. But I would imagine right now he's probably getting slammed with his phone because that announcement came not long ago. We'll come back. It is the crossover with J&V, brought to you by the good folks at Love Heating and Air. We'll find out what John's got scheduled for the big day as well. is indeed. Another one that gets stuck in your head, and then there's no getting out of it, right? U.S. Open is still ongoing. I mentioned earlier, I just think that would be such a cool sports weekend because, if you've ever been to New York City, it's really before you get to Queens. I mean, you don't even realize you're in Queens just outside of Manhattan, but there's Arthur Ashe Stadium and Billie Jean King Stadium and all that. And then Flushing Meadows, which is where the Mets play, is right there. Obviously, you are in New York. You're a train ride away from everything. I just think it'd be such a cool sports weekend to go spend a couple days in New York City. Manhattan's awesome. And then just go and between the tennis and baseball, it'd be a sports fan's dream, in my opinion. Thanks to Charles Davis for joining us earlier today. Also, Matt Verderame, as we had mentioned, and Mike Nizilik, all of that available in podcast form on the station website. But, of course, wait until after 6 before you do that because JMV is going to be with you for the next couple of hours. He just walked in. This crossover chat, of course, brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air, love-hvac.com. 317-353-2141 is the telephone number. John, what's on the big show today?
We're going to do Aiden Fisher, you, linebacker, a little Colts conversation, some bullseye passes to give away. Got to get ready for the weekend, don't we? Football. You're going to the Rose Bowl for Oasis?
I am.
That's nice.
Saturday night. I'll be back Sunday for probably the second half of the game. So,
what time do you get back Sunday morning? Sunday afternoon?
Well, the problem is the time difference, right?
Yeah.
And I tried to do the red eye, but I get back, I think it's at 2:30.
Man.
Afternoon. So.
That's a lot.
Should be able to, yeah. But, you can sleep. I'll try to sleep on the plane, I guess, right? But it's an express trip for certain. But, I think this game, John, we were talking about it earlier. When you look at the first two games for the Colts between Miami and Denver, it's two teams that I think you kind of anticipate over the course of the year, you're kind of in that same category grouping with. So it's really an important opening stretch here.
I think the opener is the most important opener that we have seen around here in years.
Yeah.
For really all involved. Think about it in these terms, Jake. If you were to go out there and to split, okay, you split. If you were to go out there and go 2-0, then the excitement is incredible.
Yeah.
If you start 0-2 at home with this group, then it's not even so much about people being pissed about the results. People are going to go, yeah, I'm not going. And we're not even in middle September. So this is incredibly important coming up on Sunday. Maybe the most important opener we have seen around here. I'm not trying to, what do they call it? Gaslight everybody, whatever nerd term that is in the now.
Right.
Gaslight everybody, but I just think it's true.
I've never understood what gaslighting means.
Gaslighting. What did that term derive?
I've never understood it.
Gaslighting is...
Straw man, I've never understood either.
There used to be the Gaslight Inn down the south side of town in Bloomington. That's where the hillbillies hung out.
Really?
The Gaslight.
What about the video saloon? Did you ever go to the video saloon?
The Vid, yeah. Do you know the story of a guy? He was actually in a wreck with me. I almost killed him back when we were sophomores in high school. My point guard at Eastern Green, I almost killed him in a wreck. Eddie, not literally killed him. Well, yeah, I guess literally killed, but he was in a wreck with me riding shotgun. But years later, he comes out of the vid and is drunk and stumbles down the stairs and falls on the, I think, the 7th Street side there, 7th and Walnut, and braces himself on that guardrail that sits right there. It may not sit there anymore, but it used to, and sliced part of his finger off.
Now, I'm pretty certain I'm correct in this, and this is one of those that it's like, without knowing all the facts, it's almost absurd to bring up, but I'm going to anyway.
Yeah.
In my college years, the video saloon in Bloomington became kind of the trendy place because it was the non-trendy place.
It
right?
was, correct.
It was the classic small town dive bar, and so college kids like to go there and intermix.
The
with
Peanut
the townies.
Barrel was very similar
Peanut
to that
Barrel,
back in the day.
Very similar, yeah. But the main bouncer at the Vid in Bloomington was actually a musician that had been in an 80s like one-hit wonder rock band that had an MTV video, and now I can't remember.
See, I did not know that.
Yes, and I'll have to
That's
figure this
awesome.
out.
I'd like to hear more of that story.
A buddy of mine a buddy of mine like traced it down and was like, "Oh my
Was
gosh!"
he in the Vapors, turning Japanese?
You know what that's
Was he
about,
with
right?
Tommy Two-Tone? 867-5309. Hey, how about Tarzan Boy? Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Was he in Baltimore? They're Italian.
I got to think. This is going to drive me bonkers.
Yes.
So here's what we'll do.
Tony Basil worked the door back in the day.
Had to be in a cheerleader outfit, right? Tony Basil.
I love all the songs from the 80s that are about spanking it. Those are my favorites. Turning Japanese is one of my all-time favorites by the Vapors. By the way, the Vapors still tour today, I believe.
Really?
Yes. In some form or fashion. I don't know if it's the original group or one guy. And maybe the roadie's the original.
That's a very politically incorrect song in multiple ways.
It is, but we love it, don't we? I think it's okay, right? Is it not okay?
It is. It's just the connotation of when you really think about what they're talking about, right?
My daughter loves the Beatles and has that very same shirt you're rocking right there.
You know why I'm wearing
Because I got it for her at the State Fair.
This shirt commemorates the Beatles at the fairgrounds September 3rd, 1964, 61 years ago today. 61
Is
years
that the
ago
most
today.
famous thing that ever happened at the State Fair, or was it Robert Kennedy?
Well, at the fair itself, I don't know.
Not Robert Kennedy Jr., but
John Kennedy. Well, John Kennedy spoke there.
Was it? I thought Robert Kennedy did a speech there too. Did he not?
No. Robert Kennedy's famous speech was at 19th and Broadway.
Oh, okay.
When Dr. King was assassinated.
I can't remember. My grandfather's like in the picture with one of the Kennedys speaking out there.
Bobby Kennedy was scheduled to speak in Indianapolis on April 4th of 68, and the speech on that day was the day that Dr. King was assassinated. So they came to Bobby Kennedy and said, "You better not speak tonight because Dr. King was assassinated and there's going to be unrest." And so he went and stood on the back of a pickup truck at 19th and Broadway, which is now obviously that's memorialized with the park, to speak to and gave the famous speech. John Kennedy spoke at the Coliseum, and I hate to say this, John, but the Ice Capades explosion, or obviously the State Fair, the stage collapse, I mean, would be up there, right? Because those are tragic moments. In terms of celebratory moments, yes, I think the Beatles playing there would have to be it, right?
Yeah.
Have to be the biggest moment.
40 years ago today, what happened? What was created 40 years ago today? This would be on this date in 1985. What was created? What famous toy was created?
Okay, so let me ask you this. A toy more commonly used for boys or girls, or
It was either.
My first guess would have been Cabbage Patch Kids, because that would have been that era.
Exactly.
But that would have been
not Cabbage Patch. It is not Monchichi, oh so soft and cuddly.
Oh, yeah. I do remember
We
that.
used to call Mike Ross, a friend of ours, Monchichi.
I will go with Nintendo.
Go with Teddy Ruxpin.
Really?
Teddy Ruxpin on this date. Who had Teddy Ruxpin? Teddy Ruxpin would talk to you.
Oh, yeah, Teddy Ruxpin. Well, Teddy Ruxpin is still used
I bet Eddie
throughout pop
Garrison's
culture.
got Teddy Ruxpin at his house right now.
Teddy Ruxpin was a little creepy, but not as creepy as Chucky. Close, though, right?
Teddy Ruxpin, this date, 40 years ago.
Okay, I'm texting my buddy right now. What was the connection between the video saloon and some random music video? And as soon as he lets me know, I will text you the answer.
I love that. I do.
I'll let you know.
Look at Eddie Garrison's, man. He's sleep deprived. He's salty.
JMV is up next, by the way. He will be with you until 6 o'clock today, talking about, as you mentioned, the Colts. And what else, John?
Doorman Mike is a legend at the Vid.
Doorman Mike.
I was a bar back there in the early 2000s. Owner, family friend, great people.
Does it say what video?
It does not. It just says Doorman Mike.
By the way, John's going to be with you until 6. Want to let you folks know you still have time, and I would love for you to do this in September. You get a free consultation, initial consultation for PWL Indy. That is Premier Weight Loss, PWLindy.com. And you've seen the fabulous work they have done for John.
I was there today.
I love it, and I'm going to be there this week. And the reason why I do the weight loss injections is because of the fact of the heart health and what it can do for your heart. I'm talking about research showing that the weight loss injections can reduce your bad cholesterol. It can increase your good cholesterol, and that's what you want when it comes to your heart health, and that's why I am so happy with the personalized consultation that you get with PWL Indy. Not one of those where you go in and they just send you out about the door. You get a personalized journey, and the results speak for themselves.
Shout out to Sam.
And a peace of mind that comes with it when it comes to the heart health. And don't forget, right now for September, not only a free initial consultation and then just $350 a month for the injections, but also you are going to get registered. If you say, you know what, I heard Query talking about it from the heart standpoint, then you're going to get registered for a chance to win 8th row tickets for the Colts-Arizona Cardinals game. That drawing is going to be taking place on October 1st. I would love for you to check it out. Again, pwlindy.com is the website. 2 locations, Fishers and Northside, pwlindy.com.